Hello, guys, and welcome back to Small Screen Live. I hope you guys are doing very well. I've got to say, I love that new countdown music, James. Brilliant. I love this new kind of electronic vibe we've got going on. It's my kind of music. So, James, well done. I hope you guys are doing very, very well today. We've got lots of stuff to talk about. Yeah, we've got Yeah. We've got lots of cool stuff coming for you today as well. We're going to be talking about Spider-Man, No Way Home, of course. We're also going to be talking about a movie that I love, and we've actually got one of the writers of the movie coming on later today, CopShop, which is it's just a really, really good fun, good like awesome movie. If you love Gerard Butler, then you'll probably know this movie. It's come out this year, so we're going to be talking about that later on today as well. And we're going to be talking to one of the writers of that movie as well. So stay. I hope you guys are doing very, very well. Who have we got in the chat? We got
no one.
We got no one. Okay, we've got no one in the chat, says James. Oh, wait, no, we do. We have Sean Harrigan. Hello, Sean. I hope you're doing well. He says, happy Friday. Another amazing interview coming up. Well, we hope it's pretty decent. We're very excited about it because we love talking to people that are just really into movies and actually in the industry as well. And we've been talking to a lot of comic book writers, and this is the first movie writer we've got on the show, so this is going to be good fun. Kurt McLeod coming up later on today. If you're a big fan of Joe Carnahan as well, he's a director that I'm a massive fan of, and I've loved a lot of. Well, I think I've loved everything. I even liked A-Team, which was one of his movies, and I've loved everything he's done. So yeah, we're going to have him on later on. So who else do we have in the comments? We have Geeks Studios saying hi, hello. I hope you're well. I hope you're doing very well. Geeks Studios, you
cool it, Sanchez, or you'll get a knuckle supper.
Yeah, I'm not going to cool it. No, but yeah, you should go and follow them over on everywhere on YouTube, on Instagram. They're really, really cool guys, and a cool kind of cool thing to go and follow if you're into all geek stuff. A bit like Small Screen. Who else do we have in the chat? We have Spooky Bats Gaming. Hello. It says, hello, Small Screen fam. I hope you're doing very, very well, Spooky Bats. I'm pretty sure you're probably behind James right now. No?
You want to yell, say hi? Yell and say hi. What? Yell at the mic and say hello.
Hi.
There we go.
Hi, Spooky Bats. Who else do we have in the chat? We have Jedi Master EJ is also here. So I hope you're doing very well. He says, hello there.
Hello there.
Hello there. I hope you're doing very well, Jedi Master EJ. We also have Dan Zig, 1979. Love that intro. Happy Friday. I love that intro as well, Dan Zig. It's I think it's my favorite, and I think we're going to stick with this one for a while because I think we've kind of found our voice in a weird way and our sound as well. And I really love this stuff that James is coming up with. I do believe he has some help with some of that stuff. I don't know. He's got Dan now, Daniel Plum, also doing some editing
for the videos. Yeah,
for the videos.
He helps out a lot on the videos.
But was it Kazakhs that did the?
He does the Kazakhs does the spinny shiz.
Yeah,
he does the 3D models. Yeah,
it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
We owe our lives to Kazakhs for that.
Yeah. It's brilliant. I love it. I love it so much. It makes me feel kind of relaxed and zen and ready for this live stream. Who else do we have? Well, we have Bobby Anderson. I'm terribly sorry, Bobby, saying, hi, everyone. Looking forward to the show. Well, we're looking forward to having you in the chat and watching. Do let us... Oh, wonderful. That's a wonderful picture.
That's her grandson.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's wonderful. And which one is the grandson? Is it Spider-Man or the kid?
You're a funny guy, Sully.
Put down all questions that come into your head about all things pop culture that's been going on this week, and also once we have Kurt on the show, do let us know your questions as well. We also, I think we've got Curtis in the chat as well saying aloha, Curtis. I hope you're doing well. Father. We have Clint as well in the chat. Clint Baker.
Anyway, enough about our balls.
Hey!
How you doing, Clint?
I'm excellent. How are you doing? I'm just writing down stuff. How you guys doing? I'm just chilling. Just walk the dog, having some coffee, ready to talk to Kurt.
Is that a euphemism?
Walk the dog? Yeah, I was actually playing with a yo-yo. I have a Duncan Imperial.
And you just said ready to talk to Kurt. Yeah, you're ready to talk to Kurt. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got him coming on later today. That's going to be.
And you. I'm happy
fun.
To see you and James too. James's voice is sounding extra bassy today. It was like the voice of God. Just hello there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. We just a big shout out to Sean McLaughlin.
Yes, Sean. Hello,
Kickstarter.
Sean.
Hey. His Kickstarter reached his goal. And
awesome.
So
wonderful news.
Last Twilight will be funded. I'm really looking forward to that film. So Sean, thank you so much for coming on the show a couple weeks ago. And I'll send you a link if you want to pop in later. That's very cool. But congratulations. That's
cool. Awesome news. That's really good news. And that's a film that I think we will definitely all be watching once it's available to watch. It sounds like an incredible idea, and I cannot wait to see that. And I think Clint feels the same way as I do.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we should talk about today is Spider-Man. This is something that I think before we get into the nitty gritty with Kurt, I think he's coming on in about maybe just under an hour. So before that, cool. let's get all of the.
Hour.
Is it half an hour? Okay. So before that,
Hello, Peter.
Hello there.
Wonderful. We're going to talk about the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer and all the pure insanity that's come out after that trailer was released, and also a lot of Tom Holland news as well. So I want to know, what did you think of the second trailer for No Way Home?
Oh God, what do you think? Clint likes everything. I loved it, man. It makes in the beginnings they always hint a little bit at what's going on. You watch this trailer and you're like, this is going to be huge. I can't wait. You know what I mean? Like I first saw this thing on my phone, like in my car real quick in a parking lot, and watched it, and I was like, wow, that's cool. But once I saw it on a big screen, there's so much going on. And I also had some subconscious time to process it. I cannot wait. It looks great. Looks super intense.
Well, because you went to see Ghostbusters, right? Is that where you saw
Last night.
Is that where you saw the trailer for No Way Home, the second one?
I did. I saw it last night also, man. And that's and I watched it 3 times, and the third time was in the movie theater, and it looks amazing.
Oh man, I can't wait to see it on the big screen.
It's different, man. When you have the sounds and the whoosh and the Dolby and surround sound and all that, it puts you in it. And so last night watching that trailer, I was in it, and that's where we all look forward to Spider-Man. Everybody loves Spider-Man, but when I got just a taste of being in the movie, I can't wait. Well,
I wanted to ask you, right? Because I've been talking to James about this, and we've got some. I think the videos now on the small screen channel about all the Tom Holland news and all the contract negotiations and stuff like that. But do you think, once and for all, that 3 Spider-Men will be in this movie?
I do.
Oh, we hear it here. Clint thinks they're good.
I've been back and forth, and I've even toyed with the notion of, like, okay, asking the question, what are we gonna do if they don't show up? And I thought about making a video about that. Like, what are we gonna it looks like it's gonna be amazing even without them. So it's gonna be a good time either way. But I don't know, man. We all have been having the conversations that they've had. They have a history of doing things like leaving people out of posters and trailers and things so that they don't reveal what's going on. Maybe Feige's up to his old tricks again. Maybe he's not. Was Lizard having like somebody yelling at him from behind? Huh? Or did he get popped in the face by a Toby Maguire? But he got washed out of there. Like, I don't know. Nobody knows.
Maybe he's got a pinched nerve in his shoulder.
Yeah, something, you know.
Yeah,
I still didn't get the John Cena reference. Somebody made a John Cena joke. What was that?
You can't see him.
Yeah, I still don't get it.
What?
John Cena.
Yeah, that's like a thing like he did in wrestling or something where he's like,
you can't see him.
This.
You can't see John Cena.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay, that's why I didn't get it.
It's a meme or something.
Sorry,
I just found that out like 6 months ago.
I heard that
Seriously?
from two different people said the John Cena joke, and I was like, how come I don't get this? What's the?
I haven't watched wrestling since Ultimate Warrior, so I was out of touch.
I'm not even into wrestling, and I knew what that was about.
I'm
That's
pre
the whole
John
joke.
Cena. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like Undertaker Kane era of wrestling. That's my early 2000s, late 90s. But anyway, yeah, I can't wait, dude. And are they going to be in it? I want to believe that they're going to be in it. We still don't have any real evidence, but I'm going to go with hope and hope that they do. Also, all these reshoots, I was making jokes the other day that maybe they weren't actually going to be in it. And you keep hearing like news that there's reshoots going on, and like, man, it's cutting it kind of close. You're doing reshoots this late. And I was joking that they were like, crap, they're not in it. We need to get them in there. You know what I mean? Like, how much money do you want? Come on, we need to do some reshoot. Put them in there. Maybe they'll just be in for a sec. You know what I mean? Just show up at the last second. But part of me also is thinking, no, they're not going to show up, and it's going to be something different, like Venom shows up and helps Spider-Man save the day, or also you can see like Doc Ock is not, he was like, hey, you're not Peter, you know what I mean? He doesn't have a problem with him, and he seems like he's in a good mood, nice Doc Ock mode at that point, you know, without the red lights on his claws. Maybe he's going to end up helping Peter Parker at the end, or Spider-Man at the end, deal with this and actually be a hero and not a villain in this movie.
I think I really think a bunch of things will happen. Like, well, that's the biggest that's the most innocuous sentence ever said. I think a bunch of things will happen in Spider-Man No Way Home. But no, what I really think, honestly, I think Curtis said this in the chat. I do think there will be riots if Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire aren't in this movie. I think Andrew Garfield is bad at lying. You can tell that every time he's asked about it, is like he's so in this movie. If there is one of them that's in it, it's Andrew Garfield. Tobey Maguire's lucky because no one literally talks to Tobey Maguire. So no one's interview. In the last interviews he did was for the Boss Baby, and that was like the last thing he starred in, which is a long time ago now. He was a narrator in that, but. I think you're right about Doc Ock. I think Doc Ock is going to kind of be on. He might flip from being like a villain to like, because he's got that whole thing of his mechanical limbs control him, and he's not actually a bad guy. He's just being controlled by his creation that is and that's evil. And you know that there's a lot of that going on, and I do wonder whether he will end up helping the Peter Parkers. I think there are going to be 3 of them. I would find it a bit odd that they bring back Willem Dafoe, bring back Alfred Molina, and bring back Jamie Foxx, yet don't bring back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. Like those, you know, they are they are those villains. Like they are those Spider-Man's villains. And if you don't bring them back, it's kind of I suppose we can talk about this a bit with a writer later on. And in a narrative structure, it doesn't make any sense to do that. It's like the only thing that makes sense is to have Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire back in this movie. And and we saw John Campea, accidentally, I think, leak those images that he said he thought were fake. And then if you look at them, you're like, dude, these are clearly not fake.
The deal with those, I heard that those were previs. Which is like CGI storyboarding basically. So they're like real pictures of them, but they'll take that and they'll paint the picture of what's going to happen instead of drawing. They'll do it like that, and so that's what I heard. Those images were Campea said something about. He's like, yeah, you could tell the shadows on this guy were going that way, and the shadows on this guy were this way. Clearly, they're fake. All put in he might be been covering his butt, but
I think he's covering his ass.
But anyway.
But I mean, and talking of campy, Small Screen was featured on his show recently. James showed that to me. That was quite fun. He didn't actually say the name, but he did put a nice screenshot of our article about Bob Iger, not Bob Iger, Bob Chapek not being at D23. The Disney CEO is not going to be at D23, guys. This is fun, isn't it? This is the world we live in. Bloody Bob Iger's not going to be at Disney at D23, the biggest Disney event of the year. He's just like, scheduling conflicts. Anyway, I digress. But and Danzig says, I don't think there'll be 3 Spider-Man. I think there'll be hundreds of all the for all the multiverses. Yeah, I mean, you might get Nicolas Cage back as Dark Spider-Man. That'd be fun. As Spider-Man Noir. And Spooky Bat says, you haven't eaten your wife's hat yet? Lol. What did I say? I'd eat her hat.
You said that in an article. If Toby and Andrew aren't in the trailer, you'd eat your wife's hat.
Aren't in the trailer.
If they aren't,
or aren't in the movie.
In the trailer.
Was that to them, or was that a Matt Murdock thing? Was they saying that if Matt Murdock's not in this trailer? I think that makes more sense.
Murdock? Yeah.
I think it might have been Matt Murdock. Yeah, and he wasn't in the trailer, so I'm going to have to eat a hat. I'll do that live on the show.
Next week.
Do that. Well, not next week because I won't be able to next week.
The week after.
The week after, yeah. Because actually, little I suppose inside baseball, but this is the last time that I'll be doing this live from this office, which is fun. We're moving. So.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
So one of the things I want to go on, Clint.
I was just going to ask, do you think Miles Morales is gonna pop in?
No.
Yeah.
No, I think it's too early for Miles Morales at the moment. I think he won't. And then if you've watched the video that we have up on Small Screen, we were told that Tom Holland wants to help cast Miles Morales. So I don't think they've cast him yet. And it's definitely something that's going to happen further down the line. And I think Miles Morales will end up becoming a pretty big part of the MCU. I think it's specifically going to be MCU. And they'll probably have Tom Holland appear in more Spider-Verse films if he wants. I mean, the ball's very much in his court. Because Tom Holland's been saying all sorts of things recently, saying that, if he's still playing Spider-Man by the time he's 30, then he's doing something wrong. He said, like, it's probably time for me to step aside and let someone play Miles Morales instead. He actually said that himself. So, and James says this a lot. It is a negotiation tactic to have him say these sorts of things in public. It was a GQ article that had a lot of stuff in it, including the fact that Tom Holland wants to play James Bond, and which I think would be, well, who knows? Weird? It would be weird. I don't think he'd be good, but if he wants to do it, then. And there's the article. Yeah, Tom Holland says he'll quit Spider-Man after he's 30, which is literally what he said. He said, if I'm still playing Spider-Man after I'm 30 years old, then I'm doing something wrong. So I suppose he's got 5 years left. He's 25 now.
I'm Bond, James Bond. It's just.
I'm sorry. My name is 007.
I still see him as that little tsunami kid, the kid in the Tsunami movie with, I'm talking about with Naomi Watts. I'm like, Mom.
My question is, if he says, if playing Nathan Drake almost killed him, what's Bond going to be like?
Yes, I mean, it sounds like
he's not going to be
movie.
Like, didn't he start with auditioning parkour for Spider-Man? And Daniel Craig did a bunch of parkour in the Bonds. Yeah,
he actually said that there's so much CGI in the Spider-Man movies that he doesn't actually do that much.
Oh, he got
stuff. Yeah, and so in Uncharted he does a lot more.
Peter Parkour. I'm laughing at Peter Parkour. I just had to make that joke. I was gonna have a note.
As far as Tom Holland as Bond's concerned, I want him to order a vodka martini shaken not stirred and then be asked for his ID. I think that would be good if they do that in the movie. Yeah, but that's neither here nor there. I think as far as Spider-Man No Way Home's concerned, well, that you can clearly see in the trailer that the lizard is punched by some invisible force. That's either Harry Potter in the Cloak of Invisibility, it's either John Cena, or it's Spider-Man. I'm pretty sure it's Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. It could be Susan Storm. Very true. It could be Susan Storm. I like the idea of Harry Potter fighting the lizard, though. I don't know why. I think that's great. Yeah, but you like the trailer, right?
I thought it was great.
And you're looking forward to this movie. Is this now for me? This movie is the film I'm most excited to see this year. Is it the same for you?
No, I don't know which I'm excited for this. It's either you're on my list, you're not. Like I'm like either I'm excited about something or I'm not, and then either you let me down or you don't. So I mean, I was just excited about Ghostbusters as I was about Spider-Man coming up. Like, and I love Spider-Man. I'm trying to remember the list of what else is coming up this thing. I can't remember.
Matrix.
Yeah, I might be more excited about the Matrix than any other movie. Honestly,
Same.
I love anything Marvel, but I love the Matrix. So,
I think for me it's Spider-Man: No Way Home. I think I'm a big fan of the first Matrix films. The other two lost me. I'm going to be honest. I did not like the other two, but I love Keanu Reeves as well. But there's something about this Spider-Man movie that I'm like. I know it's either going to be incredible or incredibly disappointing, because if you build this up, this has been going on now for months, almost a year now. I think like back when it was revealed that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are going to be in the movie, and ever since then, I think Marvel and Sony have done everything they can to kind of stop those rumors, or not, if not stop them, kind of just say that they're not true. Especially Andrew Garfield's been doing a lot of that, and Tom Holland started to do that, and then kind of, I mean, he's got better at spoiling and not spoiling things. I think this has been a big one for him.
There's some kind of discussion that the latest trailer had those mistakes, like that arm, if that is an arm on the scaffolding, and the Brazilian trailer with the lizard being punched, that Sony did it purposely to fuel more fan speculation.
Really?
So I'm not sure. Yeah, there's some people talking about that. The arm is a bit of a stretch for me, because it could just be like something on the rail, like a jacket or something. But
yeah, I think the punch thing, I think it's just odd that it's only in one, because I literally went through every single version of that trailer that I could find, and the only one that had that punch thing was the Brazilian trailer on Twitter specifically. I don't think it was in the Brazil Sony Pictures' Brazilian YouTube channel. I think they just put the normal one on there as well.
It seemed very rushed for a trailer that we've all been waiting for. Like even the Electro CGI was like pretty PS3 kind of cutscene.
Yeah. I think you might be right. I think not that it was rushed. I think they just spent too much time trying to cut out certain characters. Like Marvel does this all the time with all their trailers. They're always cutting out characters out of their trailers so that they won't spoil things. I mean, like I didn't get to talk about the Eternals. I didn't get to talk about the Eternals, but that trailer literally sold a completely different movie to what I ended up watching. Like I haven't seen it. Okay. Oh god. I will say, what I'll say is, you know what, Clint? I loved it. I really loved Eternals. I thought Eternals was incredible. And anyone that said it was boring or it was, I'm just like, well, you're looking for something that I'm kind of not looking for from Marvel movies anymore. I think I've always said, like, my favorite Marvel movies tend to be the ones that people don't like that much. Like I love Iron Man 3. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. But the ones that people absolutely adore, like Civil War, Winter Soldier, I could really take all, I'm like, whatever. I thought they were fine. But the ones that I like the most are the films that are a bit more like the Eternals, that make you think a bit more. And I've heard a lot of people saying the acting was bad in it. I thought the acting was great in that movie. I really thought Richard Madden was really good. Talk of Bond. No, Richard Madden should be Bond. And Curtis, you think I'm wrong, Curtis. Well, this is my opinion, and I really liked it.
Well, my opinion on that is that people went in there looking for an action adventure, fun movie like Indiana Jones, and I've run this analogy into the ground. And what you get with this is more of an intense drama movie that has superheroes in it. A la Game of Thrones, people are gonna die. It's more of a serious tone. There's dire consequences. Yeah. It's not like one-liners left and right. I'd buy that for $1. That's not like that. This is more of an intense Game of Thrones-y kind of drama. This is a drama, not an action comedy. So that's that's the different, and that's those are two different kind of movies, and that's why some people didn't like Dune. I like drawn out dramatic sci-fi stuff. That's fun to be. It's a different movie. If I'm like looking for something uplifting, I'll put on Turner and Hooch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's a different kind of a movie. But I think that's why people see the Marvel tag on it and they have that expectation, and it's not going to be Ant-Man, and it's not going to be a Taika Waititi fun, hilarious movie like that. It was a serious movie, and I enjoyed it too. Going back to Spider-Man though, I really think this trailer in the theater, and I don't I was looking for I didn't even realize it was the Twitter version where a lizard gets hit in the face. I was looking for that part in the theater. I'm like, oh, it never happened, but it kind of opened up the story a little more, and with everything of really explaining that, hey, this is intense, and understanding the dynamic between Doctor Strange and I've been constantly trying to pay attention to see if that's even really Doctor Strange, you know what I mean, or if he's being controlled. And there's so many theories.
That's one of the big ones. It's not that Doctor Strange is under, even it's not Doctor Strange, or either he's being controlled by somebody else. But I don't think so. I think it is Doctor Strange. I think if the second trailer makes it seem more like that this is Doctor Strange, like the whole thing where he is it MJ tells him to say please, and that to me is word. Like that's very Doctor Strange to me. Like I don't think anyone else could be that good at pretending to be him. And if he is being controlled by somebody, well, who would be controlling him? It doesn't really make much sense. I think what makes more sense is the theory that the Green Goblin's going to be behind everything and is going to be the one that kind of convinces Peter that he needs to free them. Because the whole thing is that basically none of these villains will be able to survive if they're taken back to their respective universes, because their whole reason of being is to be killed by Spider-Man or die fighting Spider-Man, and that's and then that is something that Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin will tell Peter Parker, and I also think Doc Ock will understand this as well, but might be a bit more understanding of their fate. But the Green
Doctor
Goblin,
Strange tells him, like in the trailer.
And I think, but I do think the Green Goblin will be behind it and kind of manipulating Peter. And there's been a lot of speculation about who that second Goblin was in the trailer. Well, I at the beginning I thought, oh, is it Dane DeHaan? Are they bringing back Dane DeHaan? And I was like, I hope they don't, because Dane DeHaan's Green Goblin was awful, like really, really bad. Like I'm surprised they're bringing back Jamie Foxx, because he was terrible as Electro. But I thought Dane DeHaan was particularly bad in that movie. But no, I think it's going to be Willem Dafoe in a different suit. And I think there's going to be a fight, and his suit's going to be broken in some way, and he creates a different suit. And there are rumors that he's going to be in hiding as a hobo. And then he's going to approach Peter somehow and going to like convince him to steal that magical box thingy. Which I actually don't think Doctor Strange will be in this movie that much. I think something will happen that will kind of take him out. Because honestly, Doctor Strange could deal with these, villains pretty easily on his own. And I think they're going to be focusing on the 3 Spider-Men, trying to defeat what is basically the Sinister Six.
I don't know how the Green Goblin would know that their fates are trapped in that box. You know what I mean? Is that what you're saying? The Green Goblin's going to tell him? Like maybe
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of I think the rumor is that this movie is going to be 3 hours and 20 minutes long. So I think there's going to be a lot of exposition in this movie, and I think if anyone's going, the trailer made it look like Peter knows anyway, which might be one of the reasons why he steals the box and tries to save the villains. But it doesn't make much. I mean, again, we haven't seen the movie, we've only seen snippets, but I just wonder, I do think there's going to be an element of the Green Goblin kind of controlling Peter in some way, because if you read the comics, that happens so much. Like Peter is so trusting, and one of his big flaws in a way is that he believes these guys. and he wants to believe in the best of people, and I think that makes sense as far as Peter's character is concerned, to be kind of persuaded to do something that he shouldn't be doing by a villain. Yeah, whether it's Green Goblin or Doc Ock, I don't know, but I think that might happen. Yeah, what do you think?
I don't know, man. We'll see. I'm excited though. I can't wait.
Cool.
I'm trying not to build this movie up too much. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the media.
It's our job, Ed. Clint. Sorry, I was going to say it's our job.
I mean,
yes, it's my job.
I mean, for myself, for my own expectations. You know what I mean? It's been built up so much, and I can already hear the disappointment and crying. You know what I mean? Shang-Chi was a fun movie, and people were complaining about it. Eternals is a great movie, and people are complaining about it. You know, I'm sure people are complaining about Ghostbusters right now. I saw that last night and I enjoyed it. It was fun. It's like especially after coming out of the long spell of no movies of the you know what. So I don't know if we can say that on anymore.
Yeah, you can.
Can you? There was a
really.
There was for a while where you weren't supposed to say that if you were on a monetized channel. So so I was saying the apocalypse for a long time. But anyway, but yeah, so Curtis says, "Oh, here we go," because he didn't like any of the movies that I purposely just mentioned in my examples.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, if people want to cry about stuff, they're gonna, and it doesn't matter if the movie's good or not. People are gonna complain about stuff, and I've come to accept that, and I'm just trying to have fun with it, and I try to have fun with every movie I go see, and sometimes they're terrible, and I think this movie, I'm gonna do a Clint Baker, not a small screen prediction for audience approval.
Enjoyment only. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, we'll go. This will be fun. I'll go back. I'll say audience approval will be 92%. I'm calling that.
Okay, cool.
Right now.
Yeah.
So we'll look back and see if I'm psychic or not.
But I think you've definitely got a point. This movie is almost setting itself up for failure in a way, because it's like people are so hyped for it that the only way it is down, really. I can see, like, you and I loving the film and thinking, oh, it was a really powerful, impactful, lots of good action, some really good Tom Holland scenes, loved Willem Dafoe back, thought Alfred Molina's great in it, blah, blah, blah. And then a lot of people will end up being pissed off about something. And that's the thing with these comic book movies. People will always be upset about something, and they'll be very vocal online, and then they'll get all of the press, and then that will be the discussion. That will be the thing that people will remember as like 100 fans didn't like the movie and were very upset about it, or like even more than that. You can get like 20,000 people took to Twitter to complain about the new Spider-Man movie. And then it's trending, and
Well, except for Zack Snyder fans, no one comes out in droves to praise what they like.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
The other thing too is like there's no groups coming together to get on the internet, get on Twitter to talk about how good the movie was. Let's all campaign for how good, because they've got better stuff to do. They're too busy working and enjoying the day and having a fun time. And the other people that are just sitting around pouting that they got nothing better to do. So, and some of them do, but a lot of them don't.
Yeah, I took to Twitter to say that I really liked the Eternals, and I think I got a bit of traction, and people seem to agree with me. But then some people said some rather nasty stuff, being like, "Well, you obviously need to like have your eyes checked or something," and there's always that sort of stuff. But yeah, you're right. It's like people don't tend to spread positivity. They tend to spread negativity. And it's easier to it's true.
Yeah, I was laughing at the meme. It was good.
Yeah.
No, it's true. And I don't know why. Well, I mean, people get their hopes up. And it is what it is, man. It's art or entertainment. If you're Scorsese, you don't think it's art, it's entertainment. You know what I mean? And it's storytelling, and you're not going to please everyone. And you do the best you can. And lucky for us, these guys have the budgets to tell the best stories possible. So it's a little bit more, it's different when you're up and coming filmmaker and you have to cut corners and you can't deliver certain things because you don't have the funds to do it. Has the funds to do it. So it is a little more disappointing when they don't. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. No, you're completely right. And then like you'll get movies like The Eternals and stuff that get a lot of hate online. And then you'll get a movie that's released on Disney Plus that actually kind of deserves a lot of hate, and that is Home Sweet Home Alone, or whatever.
I knew you were gonna say that. Oh,
and
man.
that film is awful. Did
you watch it?
I ended up watching the whole thing, and at the end I was like, because I watched it for 40 minutes, and then Alessia was like, "We can't watch this." Like she's like, my eyes will not let me watch this anymore. So we ended up watching Friends instead for like 2 hours. But then, and that was far better, even though I've watched that show so many times. But and then I was just like, okay, I'm gonna have to finish this movie. And I finished this film, and I was actually angry, and I've been considering giving it a 0 out of 10 in a small screen review, because it's just such a clear and obvious, like, we need to keep this franchise going type movie. And we're doing anything we can to kind of make these characters interesting, but they're not. The kid is horrendous. It's like,
okay, this is my question to you. I watched a YouTube channel called Hats Off Entertainment.
Yes,
and he does like Planes, Trains, Automobiles, Uncle Buck, all that stuff. Home Alone, he's a big fan of.
Home Alone is great. The first Home Alone is great.
Yeah, but so is it true that like the robbers you're sympathetic to them because they're just trying to support their kids?
Yes,
and
it's
then this
awful.
kid is just a jerk. Like he's just
a jerk. Is a dick.
Yeah,
the kid is just an absolute twat. And then and you watch I'm watching this going, this doesn't make any sense. You don't want these robbers, inverted commas. They're literally not robbers. They're stealing back what belonged to them in the first place. And they find out that they have this weird doll that's like worth $200,000, and they need to sell their house because they've got no money because he's lost his job. And actually, his job is actually exactly what we're looking for here at Small Screen. He migrates sites. That was his job. And I'm watching this thing going, how can you, if you're writing something and you're like, okay, you have this Home Alone formula which works, why turn it around? Why then go, okay, we're going to make the robbers the people that you actually care for, and we're going to literally have this kid kick the shit out of these two idiots. They're absolute idiots, and he is the biggest asshole I've ever seen on TV. I actually quite liked him in Jojo Rabbit. I was like, this was a bad idea for him to take this role. I was like,
they intentionally made the kid a jerk?
I think they intentionally made.
Like
yes, no, they definitely did, and they intentionally got a British actor to play him because they thought he'd sound more like a twat with a British accent.
It's personal for you now. I see.
Well, not just that. I just think I was watching this thing, and I was just like, at the end of it, I was like, who? First off, they have an incredible cast. Like really good cast, like the actor from Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt's in there. Rob, what's his name? The comedian that's in there. It tends to be in a lot of Ryan Reynolds movies recently. Rob Mulaney. No, not Rob.
No, not John Mulaney.
Not John Mulaney.
Hold on.
Yeah, well, he's in a lot of stuff as well. And then there's Aisling Bea that's in it, and she's a really good Irish actor that's in a lot of comedies, really funny, but she's terrible in this. She's just not funny in this. There's the guy that had that chat show that does the Batman thing on Funny or Die. He was in it as well, and he's horrible.
Oh, Pete Holmes.
Pete Holmes, that's it. He's horrible in this movie. And I'm just watching this
Rob Delaney.
It's Rob Delaney, isn't it? Something like that, yeah. And I'm watching this going, you guys clearly turned up for this for an easy paycheck. And I can't really blame them for that. But then I was just like, this movie should have never been made. It should have never been made. And there are so many. They have the kid, the guy that's the bully in the first Home Alone, and he's now a cop.
The older brother.
Yeah, the older brother. And I just like, I watched it because I love the first two Home Alone movies. I watched them every Christmas, and I actually felt I felt like it was a massive slap in the face, but to everyone that liked those films, almost like they were going, you shouldn't have liked those movies because Kevin, what's his last, McAllister is a villain. That's how it's like. I see this movie as this way, and it's like, yeah, okay, he's a psychopath, But
that's what Rambo 5 was.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Don't actually make. It's awful. Do not watch that movie. Do not watch that movie.
I was gonna watch it. I'm still might for entertainment value. I could hear the suits now, guys. I got the concept. We're gonna flip this around and make it interesting. We'll get the kid to be the bad guy and the wet bandits to be the good guys.
But
of course, they're not the wet bandits. But yeah, that sounds hilarious.
I think it started as Disney probably saying, okay, we have to be sympathetic to the burglars. Let's try and make a movie without any real villain. And then like the byproduct was just a kid being a jerk the whole time.
He's horrible. He literally, there's a whole scene in it where he steals presents that are meant for kids that disadvantaged children. And he's like, I have no my parents left me. And I'm like, yeah, but you live in this fucking mansion. And he's like, give me this water gun, this water pistol, because I deserve it, because my parents left me. I was like, I wanted someone in that movie to kick the shit out of that kid so badly. And I didn't feel bad. He's written terribly. I felt bad for the actor, but yeah.
We've got our guest waiting backstage.
Yeah, I know. Right. So I've just I did all that rant about a movie.
Kurt, you ready? You ready for this?
Well, that blew.
Hey, welcome, Kurt.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Love the intro.
Yeah. I've got to say, CopShop, I think, it's my favorite action movie of the year.
Oh wow!
And it's my favorite. I'm a massive fan of Assault on Precinct 13, and I got a lot of Assault on Precinct 13 vibes from this movie. And I suppose the first question.
Funny, Edward?
Yeah.
I haven't seen. No, I'm a big John Carpenter fan.
I knew you were going to say this.
It's just because of when I was born.
Yeah.
Kind of missed a bunch of those movies, so I'm aware of it, and I just haven't seen it. However, I did when I was writing, the original draft for this movie CopShop. Somebody had mentioned that to me, and I'm a big John Carpenter fan. I thought, oh shit, I hope I'm not completely. Can I say the S word on this?
Yeah. That's fine.
I went on tangent.
I hope I'm not completely, ripping off this movie, set in a police station, kind of a siege in a police station. And so I only had access at the time, because this is like several years ago. It wasn't as easy to get any movie online. And I watched some of the Ethan Hawke, Lawrence Fishburne remake. Oh yeah. Which I'm assuming has like a similar plot vibe. I think people sounded like the fans who loved the first one didn't love the second, the remake as much. But I kind of watched it, and it was just to sort of check in. Okay, what's this movie about? What's the plot? And I got the gist of it. I didn't finish watching it, not because I didn't like it, but because you don't want to watch a movie that's also based in a police station while you're writing a movie that's completely based in a police station.
Yeah.
So I wanted to try to write it kind of fresh, but the funny thing is, even though I haven't seen the John Carpenter original and want to and will, I've seen The Thing. I've seen some of his movies that were so like impactful on me, I think on a subconscious level. And I think were probably so impactful. A lot of his genre innovations were so impactful on so many filmmakers that I then did watch in the late 80s, and especially the 90s, that it I'm sure it really directly influenced some of the stuff, decisions I made when I was writing this movie, even though I haven't seen it.
Yeah, even though CopShop, it's like its own beast. When you do watch Assault on Precinct 13, you're like, oh, I can see why people are saying that, but it's got a totally different vibe. I was going to ease into that because I knew you probably heard a lot about Assault on Precinct 13 when the movie came out. So those comparisons, I was just going to ease in and be like, so what started this idea to write CopShop? Like you were a financial advisor by day, right?
Well, I'm a screenwriter by day, but until not too recently, I was a financial advisor by day, and I was writing the movie when I was in law school. And I had written. I told this story to a bunch of people who were asking me, but I had written my first screenplay. I'd done kind of a year abroad, done a screenwriting thing. I knew I was going to law school. I thought, well, I better do this before I become a square and lose all my creativity. So I kind of did a year screenwriting program, and I wrote my first screenplay, which was this giant, $800 million spectacle, like every genre in one, I enjoyed writing it. I thought it was fun, and apparently people agreed with me to the extent that I got some interest from people, wanting to represent me as a screenwriter, and so that was all great. But the first thing that people, in the business would say to me is like, yeah, why don't you write something that could actually get made? So there was this kind of exercise put to me, which I embraced and which I liked, was like, write something that could be made like real cheap, that could be made, the one location thing has been around for a long time. It's a great way for, screenwriters trying to make a low budget movie, or filmmakers trying to make a low budget movie, to embrace that kind of contained scenario. And it's been taken to extremes sometimes, and sometimes it's, it's a little bit looser, but it's kind of a good kind of starting place to say, okay, let's see if I can really limit myself as a writer, as a filmmaker. And so we started trading, me and my manager at the time, we started trading premise, log lines back and forth, basically, kind of looking for something that could be done in that way. And the premise, which I didn't come up with, but which was sent to me, was just kind of, a couple lines, and it was a hitman follows their target into a police station. The target gets arrested, and the hitman gets arrested because he needs to do this, before the morning. And I kind of just, for whatever reason, that seemed like a good starting point. And I could kind of picture, okay, like this is the kind of thing, like if I get the characters I want to get into this situation, it's the kind of thing you could almost do on like a stage. Like you could almost write this as a play practically. And you just got to make sure that the people, who are all kind of circling each other in this contained kind of tinderbox, that they're like, interesting, and that the conflicts between them are compelling. And that's kind of where the whole, that's the seed of where the whole screenplay, where the movie came from. And I just kind of took it from there. And you just try to, working with a limited toolkit, intentionally limiting your toolkit of what you can do. You just try to throw in stuff that you think will kind of shake up the cocktail as much as possible. And that's what happened.
Well, one of the things that I always want, like, I'm fascinated to talk to screenwriters because I always want to know what your process is. I find writing already quite hard. I do it all day, and I wanted to know, like, do you have a certain way of doing it? Is there a way do you do pages? Do you do time? What do you do? Like, what's your way of working?
I wish I could say that it's the same every time, and I am trying to get there, Edward, because I'm obsessed with process and with getting better at having more of a streamlined system of cranking out content. It sort of depends on, I think, the idea. Sometimes if something's really plot structured, you can you can throw some cards on the wall. You can focus a little bit more on the outline, approach it from that way, and you really want to get all the kind of the bigger story beats, the set pieces, all those things up on the board, and you can feel good about that. And then you kind of figure out the characters as you go. Whereas if you're doing something that's more of an introspective, kind of character study, that's really more about this person, this one person, you're kind of over their shoulder the whole time. I think that kind of big structured approach probably doesn't work as well. That's where you would start just writing some pages. Maybe you're writing in more of an outline form, but you're writing some dialogue in because you want to hear that person talking. So the stuff I write tends to be, or I certainly prefer it to be, somewhere in the middle of those two. So for me, as much as I hate writing like a treatment, writing an outline, I found that if I can't do it, I'm probably going to get myself into trouble. In other words, if I can't actually write like a 5-page, 10-page synopsis of what the movie is and what's going to happen, it's probably because I don't know enough yet to start writing the movie. So I've tried to, and we talk about creative limitations. I kind of like finding ways to make fewer decisions along the way. So if I force myself, you have to have an outline. It's got to be at least 5 pages, preferably 10 before you start. That's just another way to stop me from writing a screenplay half-assed when I don't really know where it's going.
Yeah, it's to like limit your struggle in the creative process, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, life is hard enough, you guys. I'm trying to make it easier over here.
Oh, exactly. We're all about streamlining here at Small Screen, that's for sure. So it's hectic enough as it is. So
yeah.
Clint saw the film, right? You saw it.
Yeah, I sure did.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Dude, it's really fascinating. I'm a songwriter. I've written jokes. I've done stand-up. I've done all kinds of stuff. And I've done exercises where I've been in a scenario where we're like, okay, I'm going to write about a Ferrari Apple, and I have to go off for 15 minutes and write a bunch of jokes, and everybody's got an assignment. We all come back and give our stand-up routines based on those subjects. And it's similar to you saying, okay, a hitman and this guy go into jail. He's got to follow him into jail. And it's fascinating, having seen the movie, that it's about that, because it also feels like it's based on the character Valerie is like the main character. It feels almost like they gave you the plot line. Okay, a police officer goes to work and she's got these people. Like, you could have started it the other way and written your way into that scenario. And the reason for that is because every character in this movie feels really real and different and relatable. The question inside this long question is, are these characters based on people you know or anything at all? Or because they feel like real people to me.
They some of them are. And you said a bunch of things there, Clint, that were really interesting to me. I want to rewind to talking about when you're talking about being in comedy. I never thought about this, but they do that in improv. And they used to do that on that TV show where they're like, okay, here's your prop and here's the scenario, and give you a couple things, and then you have to go. And that's very similar to what it is. And sometimes if the prompts aren't right and it's just not the right vibe, the sketch sucks. But sometimes you can get real lightning in a bottle doing that. If just for whatever reason, that moment, those things, you just kind of see how they're going to work together. So that's a really interesting analogy to apply to kind of contained screenwriter, where you're really trying to say, okay, I'm not leaving this place, or I'm not leaving this day, or whatever, however you're containing yourself. And then when you talk about the different characters, and you mentioned specifically the female Officer Young, played by Alexis Louder. When I was starting to write the outline for that movie, and that kind of the prompt was this idea of a hitman following his target into a police station. When I kind of started thinking about that character, that female police officer, and kind of her being the kind of focal point, maybe the sort of unobvious focal point of the movie. There's these great movies you see, like the first Alien was an extreme version of this, where you're kind of watching this movie, you're like, okay, and maybe you think or you've seen a poster. I don't know how they did it back then, but you kind of think, okay, this is the movie star, and this is who we're going to kind of follow. But as the movie unfolds, you start to see this one character kind of emerging, and I always love that. And so when I thought of that character being kind of the guide through that story, that's where I started to feel like, oh, this could be good, this could work. You've got this kind of triangulation, and then when I remember actually when I saw the trailer for this film for CopShop, I was just nostalgic about when I was sitting in my condo in Toronto, and I was typing the thing, and I just went, enter Anthony Lamb, who's a character who a lot of people have found, entertaining, and they certainly took him and ran with it. But when I threw that character in the mix, that kind of felt like finding like a chili pepper under the couch, and you're making a cocktail, and you're like, okay, let's see what this does to the drink. And I remember, so I went from feeling really solid about where it was going with, kind of using this female sort of main character as the guide. And then when throwing him into the mix, then I really remember getting quite excited about it. I thought, hey, this is actually, like, I've really got something now. So it wasn't really until all those four central characters came into the fray that you guys know from writing stuff, you have an idea or you think it's good, and you sit down, and then at some point, you sometimes you get really jacked up. You get the adrenaline starts pumping, and once I had all four of those characters working, that's where I really got into it and kind of went on a tear in terms of writing and writing pages. And the last thing, Clint, that you had mentioned is characters and who they're based on, and it's kind of a funny story where I had started writing the movie. And I had started following that female police officer in the story, and I knew I have a friend. He's actually a man, but a male, but he didn't go to medical school because he always had this dream, like kind of going and working in the RCMP in Canada, or a police force in Canada. And he got placed. He's a person of color. He actually has a name that you kind of, if you're a redneck, you might kind of give him a hard time and stuff. And he got placed in a small town. What's the name of the town? But a small town in Alberta, which some of us here from Alberta know what that could be like if you're a person of color working as a cop in a small town in Alberta. And he would tell me stories sometimes, and I really had a vibe of kind of what that was like for him. So I would call him up when I was writing the movie, and not so much for that, because you just get that from kind of talking to him about his experience, but he would just tell me, I'd be like, so what is before the cell, and just kind of give me an idea of the layout of like a police station, like the one that he worked at. And so, is the character based on him, like specifically? No, but he certainly helped me inform when I was writing, just making stuff up. He certainly helped me inform the movie. And so later on, now the movie's coming out, and this friend of mine is like, holy shit. He actually went back, he went to medical school, he became a doctor, but he's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And he's sort of like, this character's based on me. And his girlfriend, his new girlfriend at the time, is a black female cop, also from Alberta, also working in a small town. So she was like, what are you talking about? This movie's about me. So she kind of got like one up by his girlfriend's like, no, like this character is literally me. So I kind of thought it was funny them arguing about who the character was based on. So that was awesome. Inspired early by somebody that I knew. And in terms of the other characters in the movie, I'd say just philosophically inspired by people I've come across. I haven't spent much time in the seedy underworld of hitmen and crime enterprises and everything.
You don't know too many hitmen.
No,
not yet.
I'm just gonna play this quick clip, and then we have a super chat question for Kurt from Saxcod.
Somebody help this man! He's gonna die!
Okay, Saxcod asks, hey, welcome Saxcod. Nice to have you here tonight again. He just wanted to say he saw Cop Shop and it was a bonkers film. Will there be a sequel, or was this already asked?
Well, whether there's a further Cop Shop films or not is going to depend on a lot, and it's not going to be my decision. I certainly, when I was writing, the screenplay, I certainly had ideas, and I certainly knew who I wanted to survive the film and what I thought would happen if there was, if that journey continued. So I've got lots of ideas for it. And then whether, someone's going to put up the money for it is a different story. And whether I'll, have any involvement or anybody will care, what my opinion on where that story goes, is another story. But I think when, film comes out in theaters, particularly during COVID, not a ton of people see the movie in theaters. Film goes to rental on, pay rental, sort of premiere rental, whatever they call it. A lot more people see it. And then I think there's these different stages for every movie now, but particularly for these films like Cop Shop that are based on original material. So it's not, people won't really know about it unless they see the trailer or go see it, or until they see it. So there's that final stage where it goes on streaming, where it goes to one or all or some of the streaming platforms. And then it's kind of like now everything gets seen by sort of everybody, or most things get seen by everybody. It's kind of amazing. And every day you see like a new movie has become the most watched thing of all time. And I don't know, like, I'm sure it helps if there's stars and it's kind of looks splashy and everything. But I think it's honestly whatever shows up on the queue gets watched by more and more people who are more and more being able to watch streaming services from everywhere. So I think the future of a potential Cop Shop franchise will depend when it reaches that stage and when everybody gets to see it who subscribes to things like Netflix and everything, or I don't know where it's going to go, but services like that, what the general reaction is. And I think if the general reaction, even though I've tried to keep my head in the sand because writers, we can't follow reactions too much, but it seems to be very, pretty positive. So if that continues, you never know. Hopefully we'll get to see more of those guys.
Awesome. I wanted to ask, the 70s vibe in the film, did you write that in the script, or was that was a touch from Carnahan? That's
completely, and it's cool. And it not only did I not envision particularly at the beginning and the end, like the 70s aesthetic, that gritty kind of grindhouse aesthetic, and particularly even like the opening credits. I wasn't watching movies in the 70s, and I'm like, I was born in the 80s. I became obsessed with movies in the 90s. And I was almost surprised when I saw the kind of the bookend really, really noticeable 70s aesthetic and sound and vibe. Just because it's something that's almost alien to me. And I've seen it before, and people have referenced other movies that use that. And I've always felt the same way, like, oh yeah, like that was before my time. That's movies of a different vintage. So I appreciate it. I think it's really cool. And I had, I wouldn't have been able to bring that to the movie. When I look at what the movie's about and what happens in it, it makes sense. It seems like a fit. I remember early on, a lot of people, like when they were reading the early script, they would reference, like, oh yeah, it's kind of like, it's trying to be kind of funny, but it's violent. So it's kind of like those 90s movies, like the Shane Black movies and stuff. And you don't think about that when you're writing something. You just, you write the way that you write and what your personality is. But I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense because I've watched every Shane Black movie and I love that stuff. So that makes sense. But then, as it comes out, more of a 70s vibe, I'm like, oh, it's like those 70s movies. I think probably like a movie like this, a genre film like this, an action film like this, a little comedy, it really did go through different iterations, I think, from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and maybe not. And some people say they don't make many movies like this anymore, and that might be true. It might have been kind of 70s, 80s, 90s, then started to peter off in maybe the 2000s, which is also when I stopped watching so many movies. Like I still watch a ton of movies, but that was my heyday. So I'm always going to be informed by that. And the people who came before me were informed by, those Grindhouse films.
Well, yeah, I got one more question, Edward, and then I'll disappear for a while. But I did say that after I watched the film, I was like, man, they don't make movies like this anymore. Particularly because it's an original IP. It's not based on a franchise or a sequel or a reboot. You know what I mean? And the whole aesthetic and the dialogue and the characters, because it's character driven, right? In the one location, you don't really see that a lot. So it was very refreshing. Plus, I'm a huge Carnahan fan. So when I heard he was having a new movie coming out, it was sold. And then just watching was a blast. But I was just wondering if you could tell us about the ride from when you finished the script. Like, did you have people interested in the script before you finished it, or did you option it and then did you you got an agent? Like, if you just tell us about that ride from script to screen, that would be really cool.
Yeah, like certainly nobody was aware that other than my managers, were aware that I was writing it when I was writing it. I wrote it on spec. That's where you just write something and you hope that somebody likes it. Everybody, it seemed to get a positive reaction. I guess nobody's going to tell me if somebody reads the script and says this sucks. So certainly the reactions that I was hearing about were all positive, and well, actually, were really positive. And so, but I had worked a little bit in the film business way back in the day when I first graduated undergrad. I went down to LA. I'm Canadian, but you have a year visa, so I sort of did my time, learned about the movie business a bit. So I kind of know, I had seen really great scripts back in, I guess, sort of 2006, 2007, that would have tons of movie stars attached immediately, like Sharks to Blood in the Water. And you kind of know why. You'd read it, you'd be like, it's kind of really stands out. And so these great properties. And then flash forward 10, 12 years later, those things don't exist. They haven't been made. So, and I saw that a lot. So I always had in the back of my head, okay, I wrote this script, and it was my second script. And frankly, I felt like it would take longer for me to sort of develop my chops. I'm kind of lucky in a lot of ways. A lot of timing and things came together for the right people to see, this material at the right time. But I kind of thought, that's great. People like it, and that so-and-so's interested, or this actor or this director is interested. But, let me know when the check clears. Let me know, not even let me know when the production starts. Let me know when the film is in the can kind of approach. Helped that, that ride, as you called it, that trajectory, not feel. I certainly wasn't riding high during that time. I was delighted by things I was hearing, but I would tell my close friends and family, but I would always kind of preface it with, but this doesn't really mean anything. Schedules have to work out. This actor has to have time. That person has to make a deal, all that stuff. So, and sure enough, it did take a while. Like it took, I graduated law school in 2014. The movie was announced in 2020, came out in 2021. So really like 7 years it took, which is such a long time, but for like a movie, especially as I mentioned, kind of an original movie, it's not like they greenlit the film and then said, okay, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
They know they're going to, I caught a little bit of your guys' conversation before I jumped on, and it's like, oh, this is great. These guys just talk about movies. It's not like they're like, should we make another Spider-Man film? They're like, we're making another Spider-Man film. What should be in it? So that's a totally different process. But when you make something up, it's like, if it's 5 years, I feel like that's actually kind of quick,
Yeah.
It's not impossible to have it get made right away in a couple of years, but I don't really ever see that happening a ton. So it was a long, quick ride that was pretty, from my perspective, I tried to keep a pretty blasé attitude towards it. Then when the movie got announced, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to start getting excited soon. And then when the movie, but also COVID, you know, so I didn't want to get too excited because this thing could get shut down any day, you know, just based on what I've been reading about other movies and stuff. And so even while it was shooting, I was like, okay, seems like it's going well. I think once they wrapped, then I started getting excited. And then when they announced the release date, then I was, you know, through the roof. I was pumped.
Awesome.
Nice.
One of the things I really wanted to know is this is your first feature movie that's under your you know, that you've written.
Yes.
How does it feel having to have your first movie that's coming out into cinemas hopefully sometime? Well, in France it's not out yet, but I think it's getting a wider release in a couple of weeks, I believe.
Right.
How does it feel to have not only Joe Carnahan direct it, but also the cast that it has, which it has like Gerard Butler, one of the world's most famous action movie stars, and Frank Grillo, who, you know, two like massive action movie star names. First, I suppose my question is, how does that feel? And also, were they two actors that you had in mind for that part? And if not, or were there any other actors that ended up in the film that you had in mind for this movie?
I love that you asked that question, because I don't think anybody's asked me that. But okay, so when I was writing the movie back in the mid 2000 teens, while I was writing the movie, I think I actually finished it, maybe just finished it. Maybe I was just doing a polish, but I had seen a movie, you know, like you picture actors playing certain roles, but especially like at, you know, that stage, I'm just writing my second screenplay. It's not like you ever think anybody's going to actually play it. You're sort of just picturing it for your own purposes. It's kind of so you can see people in roles. Sometimes you can't think of an actor. You're still picturing somebody. Maybe it's somebody you know or whatever. But I'd seen this movie. It's with Jamie Foxx. Gerard Butler's in it. He's kind of locked up at some point.
I know.
Law-abiding citizen.
Law-abiding citizen. Yeah.
Law-abiding citizen.
Yeah.
So I saw Law-abiding citizen, and like I had a couple actors in mind, and he's doing this thing in it where he's like kind of menacing, also kind of a little bit charming. And at one point, you're just like, oh, he's gonna go off and everybody's gonna get killed here. And I remember being like, oh, Gerard, he could really do that. You know, I started thinking about him. So he was one of the few actors that I just had in my head, just random names in my head of playing, you know, that character specifically. Because I'd seen him do it a little bit in that movie. So that was very wild when his name came into the fray. I mean, like, just what are the odds? The odds are like I have a better chance of scratching a lottery ticket, you guys, to be honest, for that to happen. Frank Grillo, I'm a huge fan of. I've been a huge fan of Frank Grillo for a long time. I don't think I had seen him in a movie yet when I was writing this script. I saw the movie The Grey, which is one of my favorite Joe Carnahan movies. And I remember I think it was after I wrote the script for CopShop. I remember thinking, like, who's that guy? That guy's like, you can't take your eyes off that guy. He's like, first of all, he's like wildly handsome, but he's got this kind of this vibe. Like, he's just kind of very like a charismatic kind of thing where you just kind of, you want to see him on the screen. I didn't really look up his name, but I remembered him from that movie. And then I saw, I think Warrior, I think it came out after that, or maybe I just saw it after that. But that's where I recognized him, and I really liked that film as well, the UFC fighting movie with the two brothers. Yeah. And I loved everybody in that movie. I thought everybody gave great performances. But there's something about the coach, Frank Grillo as that coach, where I'm just like, you just wanted more of him in that film. So he became this guy who, and I think it was true for a lot of people who maybe you didn't, you know, he hadn't had his big starring role yet. He eventually was in the Avengers, and then he became a much more known quantity for a lot of people. But he's just like that guy where you're like, I hope that guy's in this movie. And so I thought of him for a while. I hadn't thought of him when I was writing it, but when I heard he was attached to the movie, I knew who he was playing, and I immediately thought, oh, that's perfect. So I was really pleased about that.
That's really cool, because watching it, honestly, I thought this is I've been a big fan of Frank Grillo's for a long time, and I thought this was a massive departure for him, because usually he has started playing villains a bit more now, but he usually, you know, plays a bit of a hard man or something. And this character didn't seem to have that at the very beginning of the movie, and then as he develops, you kind of realize there's something very sinister about this guy, and actually I felt like it was such an interesting casting choice to have Frank Grillo in there. Honestly,
you know, one thing I didn't know, Edward, is I didn't know that. I only learned this relatively recently, I think when I was like looking at stuff for my own movie, but that Frank Grillo was like a really big villain in one of the biggest movies of all time in China. He was kind of the main bad guy. And so I think he's quite known internationally for playing villains. I like that character. That character could go either way, and certainly I liked that character a lot, and found him like kind of like that. It's like that guy who's like, he's kind of a shithead, but you just kind of can't help but like him. And so, and I would say that, some of the, the way that they sort of enhance that character and the way that they enhance sort of his villainous qualities at the end, it certainly, I think, was something where they even wanted to push it further and maybe saw like his potential. Frank Grillo is one of those guys, again, apart from his fame of being this big villain in this movie in the international market, I think he's one of those guys that you just kind of always like in every role, or I do anyway. So I think it's cool to see him kind of take that direction. It'd be hard for me to see that Frank Grillo in any movie, like twisting his mustache is kind of like the baddie from the start. I don't know if I would. I just like him too much. I don't know if I'd buy it.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of that for me as well. But I mean, what about some of the other actors in it? So like Alexis Louder.
I wanted to ask Edward about who you envisioned, Kurt, for Toby Huss's role, Anthony Lamb, when you're writing it.
So, it's really fun to talk about each of these characters because, you write something, it's like you have like your kids, you get attached to these characters, you have affection for them, whether good, bad, or ugly. And then I used the analogy before of it's like sending them off to boarding school, because when a movie gets made, particularly like I'm up here in Siberia and sort of, the movies get made down in Atlanta, it's like, it's going through iterations. It's there's a great director who's got a vision. There's even then the editor, and there's there's so many people involved in the studio. So the idea that it's just going to like, you birth this thing and then your kid turns out exactly how you would raise them is kind of absurd. It's really like amazing how much the movie resembles, what I had sort of hoped for and pictured and how I saw my kids, and very pleasing. But Toby Huss, of all the characters, Toby Huss, like I would have never pictured him in that role. But the moment I saw him doing it, I just thought it was so great because it sort of like delivered exactly what I was hoping for. But when I had written the character, I was picturing I was picturing him younger. I think I even wrote that he was younger than like Gerard Butler's character, and sort of like he was thin and he was dainty and he was wiry because just the way he moves and stuff, the stuff he does. But he was younger and he was sort of like pretty, and I think I pictured like a young Jared Leto kind of with kind of like really light blue eyes. So like this is kind of gangly, dainty guy who just like doesn't look physically imposing, but his kind of pale little kind of perfect face is just like really frightening, and then he gets zany and stuff as well. So in some ways, Toby Huss is sort of almost the opposite of that. Like he's older, I think, than Frank Grillo, or kind of that age, and he's got some mileage, and he's sort of the wiry other end of that age spectrum. And yet when I see him doing it, it kind of reminded me, like I would never compare anything to like these classic characters of all time, but you hear like Heath Ledger's going to play the Joker, and you're like, oh really? And then when you see him do it, you're like, oh, of course he's doing it as well or better than anybody would do that. And you just wouldn't have pictured that his physical form in that, or his physical face really in that body. So Toby Huss for me was like the most different physically cast, sort of above the neck. And in some ways, delivered as much or more of what I was thinking about in the character and what they did with that than any character. So total out of left field, like bullseye for me as the writer standing off to the sideline.
One of the best characters in that movie, like he's got a line that's like one of male grooming's greatest misfires, the man bun. You look like Tom Cruise in that samurai film that no one saw. I was like, dude, that's the best line in the movie. Like, one of them, but like really good. Do you do you just think this stuff up? Do you like sometimes I get ideas and I'm like, hold on, I'll stop a conversation, I'll do a voice note, or I'll text myself or something like that just to save idea. Do you do that, or do you you just
Clint,
sit down at the keyboard and the universe just drops these gems in your lap without any?
Clint, so I mean, I write humor and I write jokes in all my movies, and even when I'm trying not to, it's I'm writing stuff that I certainly hope is funny. As a comedian, sometimes you think something's gonna be funny and it's not, but I just can't help myself. The two lines in the movie that I think people tell me are their favorite lines is that the Tom Cruise gag and the Chris Hemsworth thing when he's making fun of him pounding the wall. Neither of those lines I wrote, and actually specifically when I'm doing the comedy stuff and scripts, I try not to make it too topical because you don't know what the timeline is for the movie getting made. Yeah. And by the way, I actually really liked Last Samurai.
Me too.
But so one great thing about that is, although like those same sort of beats are there, like I'm not writing Chris Hemsworth and his wife's name when the guy's making fun of him. People love those lines. When they talk to me about the movie, they say like those were my favorite lines, and I have no problem saying like, well, I didn't write those jokes because I enjoy them. And it's funny when you're watching something that you've written originally, but somebody else has made enhancements and revisions and has added lines like that. You can actually laugh at them yourself because you don't know they're coming. So it actually makes it actually can make the watching for the writer even more enjoyable. The funny thing to note is that the Tom Cruise Last Samurai line, I think Joe Carnahan sort of did a little bit of work on Mission Impossible 3, if I remember back in the day. Yeah,
well, I think he was originally going to direct it, wasn't he?
So I thought it was funny.
Yeah, before JJ.
Tom probably hasn't seen it, but I wonder what he thinks of that line.
Nice little jab at him. Sax Scott asks, do you use a screenwriting program, or do you just use pen and paper, or just notepad, Word doc?
I use a screenwriting program. I actually switched recently to a program called Writer Duet. And the reason I did that is because it's a cloud-based one. So I'm really bad at saving documents and getting them all lost on my, this laptop. And then I switched laptops, and I'm really bad at storing stuff on my computer. So I just switched to a cloud-based one for that reason. And it works really well because then you can log in if I'm over there visiting Edward. Is it France, did you say?
Yeah. I live just outside of Paris.
So if I'm outside of Paris, I can just log on to any computer and do a little work. You don't have to worry about lugging your stuff. Yeah. And then about the pad and paper, there's a bunch of people who, and in fact, there's some famous screenwriters, some sort of classically famous screenwriters and writers of any kind who would do pad and paper, write the first draft with a pen and a paper. And I always found that very romantic, and I thought that was really cool because you're working on the computer, you're going back, you're going forward. You can almost revise a little too much on the fly. You get stuck writing one scene 42 times, and then you're like, what did I do the last 3 days? So there's kind of that forward inertia with the pen and the paper that's good. Now, I don't want to lug around sheets of paper, so I finally went out and bought an iPad and got the Apple Pencil. So I've done it a little bit, and I told my wife from now on, when I write a first draft of a screenplay, not the one I'm writing now, when I do the next one, I'm going to might even go to a log cabin somewhere, but I'm just going to take that iPad and I'm just going to force myself to write it out by hand until it's done, the draft. And then you've got it saved. You don't have to worry about the pages, and then just take it from there. Because there's something very appealing about the tactile nature of, you write fewer words, so you get less wordy, I find. You almost force yourself to just move like in a very simplistic way. Yeah. So I would love to start doing that more.
It's probably more concise writing that way as well. Like, well, sorry, James. I have to mention this. This is a good. Yeah. Oh, go on, James.
I was just gonna say this is a good segue. What are you writing now? What have you written after CopShop, and what do you think? Yeah.
So I got two new movies that I'm writing. Neither of which are quite finished yet, but I'm actually gave you guys. I was just about to write the end this afternoon, but I thought, no, I gotta go talk to my buddies on small screen. So you guys have pushed my deadline into next week. But two movies, and what I'll tell you about them is, one is kind of like CopShop, but even a bit broader and more. I'm pushing, the budget up a little bit. Now that somebody's giving me a green light, now I'm getting a little bit cocky, and I'm not containing myself as much. But so kind of a big action comedy. Still a little bit, actually mostly set in kind of one location now that I think about it, but not on purpose. And so I'm kind of really going for it with that, and I'm trying to finish that up. And then another one that's very, in fact, it's extremely contained because it's something that I'd like to maybe make myself, maybe shoot around here. And so I'm really pulling out all the stops on trying to make it as minimal and as kind of, as stuff happening off screen as possible. Because I think it might be like my little passion nugget where maybe I'm going to become a multi-hyphenate at some point. So those two things are very
El
different.
Mariachi.
What's that?
You're El Mariachi.
That's right. I'm gonna open my own Robert Rodriguez sort of makeshift studio here in Edmonton, and everybody's gonna take note.
What genre is that movie in?
That's actually it's a thriller. It's an action thriller comedy.
Ooh.
Horror. So
everything.
Yeah, so it's almost everything. I'm almost returning to my roots of being that ridiculous. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Kurt McLeod writing Spider-Man 4 confirmed.
Yeah.
If there's any big Hollywood studio execs listening to this, Marvel specifically, you know what I'm really excited for, you guys? And I feel like this is one of the. Oh yeah, here he is, Mr. PG. Is the new Blade movie? When's that coming out?
Well, that's it's been pushed back, I think, quite a few times. They've got a director now. It's attached to it.
I think they know who's playing Blade too.
2023,
that's a franchise.
2024.
I'm sure they're going to run out to hire a pasty Canadian middle-aged white guy to write the next Blade installment. But that's a franchise that I'd love to sink my teeth into. No pun intended.
What do you think of the sequels compared to the original Blade? I remember seeing the Blade 2 movie I remember seeing it in theaters. I think Guillermo del Toro directed that.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, holy this movie is amazing. Yeah. I was so surprised by that movie. It actually made me like the first one more. Like I liked the first one, but the second one just kind of blew my socks off. And I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't know how well it holds up, but I remember being a teenager watching that, or I don't know how old I was, and I just thought, oh wow, this is a whole new level of just kind of badass vampire action movies. If that's a genre.
The second one holds up better than the first, I think.
Really?
Does it?
Yeah, I think so. The second one holds up better than the first.
Yeah.
I think it's still to this. I watched it pretty recently, and it also doesn't have Stephen Dorff in it, which is good.
Well, you know what? This is back in the day before Stephen Dorff was a jerk. But come on, like the first one, I saw 6 times in the theaters. All right,
yeah,
it's just got that. You say, Kurt, you haven't watched a lot of films from the 70s. I mean, I just finished watching Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3 last night.
Ooh,
the first time I saw it, 1974. But I like to go back and revisit because there's something about it being shot on film, and there is that film stock from like 75 to 83. Yeah, it's just really. So that's why the original Blade kind of resembled that in the way it was shot and paced. I think that. And plus, it was my age at the time is like, wow, it's a Marvel film, and we haven't seen something like this that's kind of up there and adult and gritty. So, yeah. I like the second and third ones, but like, it just kind of got a little bit too franchisey for me. You know what I mean?
It's like watching.
Third one, I didn't like the CG fight between. The CG Blade and the other ninja, but it's like if you watch Dark City and then you watch The Matrix, you're like, okay, that's a good upper level film continuation kind of off of Dark City, right? And then you watch Reloaded, and that's really good. The highway fight scene, all that stuff, and then you watch was it Revelations? I always get the third one, the subtitle mixed up, and that's like, oh, okay, now it's kind of little bit too big franchise, but it was still good, but they had to wrap up the story. But I digress. I'm just gonna
yeah, he's cut himself off. Before, I suppose one of the do you have a question, Clint?
What would you tell your past self if you could go back and give yourself tips, I would say you'd already written. You said you'd already written that other script, and then this was an exercise in writing. But like, if you were talking to yourself, first time sitting down writing a script, for anybody at home who's thinking about trying to get into writing, what would you tell your past self as far as advice on how to do it, or don't take yourself too seriously, open your mind, whatever. What's your advice to yourself?
I found having somebody else give me a deadline, like that 1-year screenwriting program, was so helpful for me because it forced me to essentially just give birth to a thing,
Yeah.
Otherwise I might have had trouble getting to the end. So finding some sort of external, and you don't have to pay money for it, but I don't know, just give your friend $1,000 and say, if I don't give you a script in 3 months, you get to keep this money.
That's a good incentive.
Accountability, yeah.
Forced deadline, but in terms of what I tell people now, and what it was harder to do back then, but I still should have done it more, is like the number one most important thing that a screenwriter should do in terms of, other than writing, is reading screenplays and watching the movies that the screenplays are for. Now that's so much easier now because, after a few years of every movie, usually a lot of scripts will surface online. So you can really do that now. And I've started doing that more now myself, just because, especially being a full-time writer, I've got a lot of time to read some stuff. So I'm really enjoying watching film. I just watched last night, you guys, it popped up on Netflix, Minority Report. And I was like, well, there's 2.5 hours. I'm committed. And I just have such adoration for that movie from a writing perspective, because it's so complicated, but they're just ripping through stuff. And it's a really tight, they can actually shave 20 minutes, but it's a really tight movie. That I got to go read that script now. Scott Frank, I think, wrote that script. And because my appreciation for it as a writer watching it, I need to go see like how he sort of did some of those scenes on the page. And I'm sure I'll learn a whole bunch of things reading it. So anybody who wants to write a screenplay and isn't reading, every script they can get their hands on, it's just kind of like, well, that's the only way you can learn what they look like, what to include, what not to include. And you can add stuff, and you can create your own sort of form, but just look at what they look like, because otherwise you might end up writing a novel, or you might end up writing dialogue that even if it might sound good in an actor's mouth, just kind of looks dumb on the page, which I still do all the time. And so I think that helps. That really helps, just kind of give you something to go off of,
That's fantastic advice.
Very good advice. Yeah. One of the things I mean, I've written some really awful scripts. I'm going to be honest; they're not very good. They're short movies. But one of the things that helped me just do them was listen to people like yourself. I listen to a lot of podcasts, the Q&A with Jeff Goldsmith, for instance. That's something that I do a lot, and just listen to what other screenwriters are doing and what their process is helps me to write. I think I've got like about 10 now short scripts.
Oh, wow.
And
you've written more than I have, Edward. I need to get my act together.
They all tend to be horror movies. I'm a big fan of Dario Argento and his horror movies, which is what I wanted to talk about before, was the writing on pen and paper. They used to write. They did the cinema giallo, the yellow cinema they call it, because they wrote them all on very cheap yellow paper. Nice. That's why that's got that thing. But also, I agree with you. Writing on pen and paper is much better. I've got an iPad as well with an Apple Pencil. It's so much better. It's so much better doing it that way, and it's better to make a more concise film, which is exactly what I think CopShop is. It's a very kind of contained, concise movie with very well-rounded characters, and it's very rare nowadays to see an action movie which is like that. And I really do commend you for having written what is a really terrific movie. Really, really good.
Well, thank you, Edward. I appreciate that.
And I thank you for writing it.
The writing on pen and pad always reminds me of a story I heard. Eli Roth was in LA with Tarantino at Tarantino's pool. You hear this? And he was like on his laptop, and Tarantino said, "Get that out of there," and gave him a yellow pad. He said, "Here, you're going to write your Hostel movie on this, and you're not going to go on your laptop." And then he found it so much more liberating and free.
It is.
Right.
I always think of that story in the back of my brain.
What we really need to do, guys, is get typewriters. And just plug them around.
Yeah.
Just smoke cigarettes and put out our darts on the table.
Barton Fink styles.
Yeah.
Do you notice stories or come across stuff where you're like, God, I wish I wrote that? Or where you get jealous. Like I've done that with songs where I'll hear a song and it's so brilliant that I'm jealous that I didn't write that. It almost like evokes a anger emotion. Like I'm angrily jealous that I didn't come up with that.
Yes. Oh yeah. It's kind of like a great feeling though, because it just means I just watched something that was just, I love movies. Like you have to love movies. You're going to spend all this time and years trying to get stuff made, but. It came out a while ago, but because it's such a so I'll see films that I love, but I'm like that would never make it as a spec script. It just wouldn't. Yeah. There's a very narrow. Like if there's a Venn diagram, it's a very narrow corridor where you have this thing that you're going to put on somebody's table, and they're just saying, "Hey, let's invest zillions of dollars into this thing you made up, so that other people can watch and entertain." Like when there's nothing that it's coming from. So. There's very few, like if I watch I'll go on a little bit of a quick tangent here, but if I watch a great Chris Nolan movie, you like Inception, you watch Inception, watch this movie, I'm like, oh, I like this movie. There's no effing way if I wrote this script, it would ever get made. Nobody would even finish it. They wouldn't get past the first 15 pages. And I guarantee you that whoever read, I can't guarantee you, but I bet you the people who were in that movie. In fact, I think I remember Leo in an interview somewhere saying, like, yeah, I actually didn't know what this movie was about. But you just know, you're like, okay, this guy, I've seen his other movies, he makes good stuff, so I don't know, I guess we'll just give him the keys. Yeah. And then he goes and does it. And that's not, so it's a great movie, but there's a difference between a great movie and a good spec script that can somehow make it through that channel. So I've learned to appreciate great films. I've learned that many of my favorite films would never get made as scripts. They require a director name and some faith that they're just going to do something. Some of the script writing is different than filmmaking. So there could be great movies based on good scripts, but many of my favorites would never be that great of a script. I don't care what anybody says to read. One of the movies that I watched, I thought this is an amazing spec script. Was the sequel came out recently, A Quiet Place. So when I was watching A Quiet Place, which is a horror movie, I just said, oh my God, I should have written this movie. It's so perfect. Everything about it's so perfect. The beats are so perfect. She gets, she goes into labor at the midpoint. I was just like, this movie is so incredible. And yeah, there's no, people like dialogue in spec scripts. They like, that's one of the reasons why it's good to have, if you write with a little bit of humor, people just like reading that better. Generally, it makes it less boring than just describing stuff. But when I watched that movie, I just thought this is like an impeccable spec script movie. And I wish I wrote it for sure.
With very little dialogue as well.
No dialogue, really.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe because of that, I have an idea for a movie where the main character, it's kind of like Drive. I don't think Ryan Gosling says much of anything in Drive.
No, he doesn't.
So I have this action thriller movie. There's kind of a reason the person doesn't say anything, but that I'm really keen on. And so I'm going to write my script at some point that has like 3 lines of dialogue in it. And we'll see. We'll see if we can get it made.
I don't think he has a name in that movie either. And there was a movie that was made recently that's on Netflix called Mute, where the lead character's mute. Yeah, that wasn't too good.
There was an episode of Mr. Robot in the last season. I don't know if Kurt, if you ever watched Mr. Robot.
I've seen a couple episodes.
Yeah.
Okay, and there was this. Oh, it was absolutely brilliant. Where it's like, absolutely brilliant, Edward. At the start, Mr. Robot gets in the car with his sister, Darla. And he starts, and she goes, "Can we just not talk?" And at that point on, the whole episode, there's no dialogue whatsoever. And then the last line of it is, "Okay, I think it's time we should have a chat now." It was, and just the way Sam Esmail just executed it, and you could only do that after like 4 seasons, you know what I mean, or like 3 seasons.
You've earned the audience's
trust.
Like John Krasinski, like he would only be able to pull off that spec script because he was John Krasinski, right? So
well, that's actually a pretty good point. Well, actually, no. Let's think about this, because that script had fallen onto Michael Bay's table, because I looked into this because I was interested in it. I wanted to make sure I was right, that this is a good spec script. And they had picked it up, and he had gone to John Krasinski because they were making this is what I think I read. He was making a movie with them, the military film, and said, "Hey, you should be in this." So I think it kind of did. It kind of did make it. Probably just people just got the concept. They got why that would be cool. They read it. It read pretty well. But your point is still valid, which is don't try this at home.
Yeah.
Well, like Christopher Nolan with Tenet, right? And Inception, like you
ask
said.
any actor in that movie if what that film's about. They will not be able to tell you.
Yeah. Tenet took it to another level. I need to watch Tenet again because it's so Nolan. It's such an original Nolan movie where he's just like, I can do whatever I want, and you are going to sit there in IMAX and pay $40 to watch me do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yep.
Maybe you should watch it backwards. Maybe that's what I should do. We'll watch that movie in reverse.
And we're gonna have the sound the way I like it. I don't care what anyone else says. We're just gonna have the theater sound the way I want it. Because you know what? Fuck it. Hold on, let me cue it up.
Well, do you remember, just on that note, do you remember when the trailer?
It's like, fuck it, you know. I
mean, there you go.
When the trailer for Dark Knight Rises, the teaser came out, I was watching in a theater, and I thought the theater was broken because you couldn't hear anything about plane noises. And I remember reading that was his intention, which is kind of, it's just like weird. You're on another level where you're just like, I want to fuck with the audience now and make this difficult for them to follow because I can. I think we would all love to get that point as filmmakers, where we have that kind of pull.
Yeah.
That'll be in 5 years. I'll be coming on to discuss my latest opus.
Yeah.
You guys will be like, what did you do? Why couldn't we hear anything? I'll be like, because I can.
Yeah, exactly.
After we do the documentary of your Troublemaker Studios in Edmonton.
That's
yes,
right.
Yes,
that's right.
Well, one of the questions I had for you actually, and I forgot to ask this earlier. How important to you is foreshadowing? Because watching CopShop, I really got the impression that that's something that you really enjoy like doing, especially with the gun.
I think it's something, especially when you're trying to build suspense. You know what's interesting is like I've seen things. I've actually like got on social media to follow like the movie, so I wasn't really on Twitter or Instagram or anything really. I had a Facebook account, but I got on to kind of follow stuff. So I would see reactions through that, and I've kind of enjoyed like seeing people react to the movie or have different opinions about it. But sometimes it's be like, oh, like just shoot them up from wall to wall, like sort of commenting on how much action there was. And I kind of thought like, is there a lot of action? Because I kind of I wrote the original thing and they pretty well kept. I mean, they had a much bigger budget than I anticipated, so they could add a couple little things, some things in, but it wasn't that much action in the movie. Most of it's just people talking in rooms. Yeah. But when you're writing that stuff, I certainly always feel a pressure, or I feel that it's helpful to try to have things feel like they're coming down the pipe, and to use foreshadowing, anticipation. Like surprise is good, but if you have to sit through 10 minutes of people talking, I'd rather have that something's going to happen pretty soon, or feel like it's going to happen pretty soon. So I think, but saying that, even on this bigger thing I'm writing now, like, you're always kind of, I guess, suspense, always trying to create little mysteries. I remember seeing J.J. Abrams do a talk one time that always stuck with me, where he called it a mystery box.
Mystery box.
Was that what he got? Oh, it was just this idea of like, you always want, I mean, you can take it overboard, of course, and have everything be a mystery.
We don't have the mystery box image. We had it a couple months ago. Yeah, we got rid of it.
Hashtag season 2 of Lost. But but so setting up sort of a mystery that you're going to answer, and that people kind of are guessing about. So just those kinds of things. Always have at least one of those threads or a couple of those threads burning at any one time. I think it's helpful when you're writing an action movie that technically doesn't have that many. It's not like it's not like you're setting up a set piece every 10 minutes like clockwork, Yeah. So that's where I think that comes from, and I kind of just like it better too, because I think I actually, even though you write less action when you're trying to make something minimal and contained, I actually have found that I actually like even bigger budget films to have fewer set pieces. I want more build up, so then when they happen, it's more intense. I care more about the characters. It's more satisfying for me. So I love these sort of slow boil long, and then like a real rush of action. And that's not everybody feels that way. Some people get bored and they're just like, oh, you got to give me something, every 15 minutes. But for me, I want you to really drag me along, and then really like smoke me off my chair at the halfway point, or even the end of the second act.
Some of the best films of the last 20 years have been like that. You know, like
true.
most notably thinking about Inglourious Bastards, the bar scene. You know, where it's the slow dialogue and the burn up. Yeah. You didn't say Edwards, sorry.
No, I was just going to say that it was for me, it was particularly evident in the scene between Valerie and Officer Pena when they're doing that whole thing with their guns, and it's the gun in it is almost a character to me, like Valerie's gun. And there's an element of that at the end as well. And I think the reason why people think there's so much action is because there's so much build up towards the final third of the movie, which is that there is a big action movie at the end of the movie, but it's actually, if you're taking the whole movie, it's actually a very small percentage of the film. So
of the runtime.
Yeah.
No, they the director and everybody, they did a great job of the sort of the production design. Really, like, I think my image of the film I had was, in some ways it was more stark when I was writing it. Like Hitman movies that I had seen, Collateral, No Country for Old Men. There are a lot of them. They have this kind of stark palette, and I remember actually. Just in my head, I was just like picturing fewer colors, and I remember first seeing like the stills from the movie and seeing the trailer and seeing the film, and it really jumped out. Like, it really felt, even the way they did each individual character almost felt like trading cards, and people were like, oh, this is Guy Ritchie and Tarantino. They're kind of referencing these movies that almost have like a comic book kind of vibe, even though they're not comic books. And that was very much like the production designers and stuff. And of course, I understand why that was a good fit, but that wasn't, I didn't see that. And then when I saw it, even just like the way they shoot the revolvers, and it just felt like the Western, the comic book vibe. It really came, sort of jumped out, almost not in a cartoonish way, but in kind of this glossy way that I thought was cool. And when you have a movie with humor in it and stuff, I think it matches well with all that.
Kind of like a 70s Smoking Aces vibe.
Well, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like, Smoking Aces, total. I mean, also actually a competing Hitman
Carnahan.
film, but many more Hitman and much grander scale. And I'm sure they spent a lot more money on it, but definitely you felt that vibe of like, all these different action figures kind of coming out of the fray. And so it was neat to see how they really leaned into that and kind of gave it this bubblegum aesthetic, or I'm not even sure what you call it, but that kind of comic book, where you have those little squares, like that kind of thing was neat, graphic novel kind of thing.
How are you doing for time, Kurt? So no, you said you had about an hour.
I got a couple minutes. I got a little kid at daycare I got to run and pick up, but
okay.
Certainly fun to chat with you guys about movies. You clearly know your stuff even more than I do. So
I just want to ask you quickly, have you seen The Long Goodbye?
No.
Okay, definitely check it out.
James,
tell me about it. Movies. Who made it?
Okay. Now you put me on the spot here.
It stars Elliot Gould.
Elliot Gould.
The character you just showed,
it's based off of. I'm a bit rusty here. Hold on. It's based off of the detective novels of Philip Marlowe. I can't remember the authors. Robert Altman directed it. Right.
No way.
And let's see who wrote it here. But I've discovered it. I always knew about it, but I discovered it like a couple of weeks ago, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. The script, the acting. And I've been trying to find similar movies to watch because I kind of get into that mode, but it's really hard to find. And it's like most of the Philip Marlowe characters are like film noir detective novels,
Yeah.
But this one is set in the 70s. It's got a really like a laid back approach. Like,
oh, is this where I'm supposed to say, what is all this about? And he says, shut up, I asked the question.
Yeah. So I just, because you said you were talking about your influences and dialogue and characters, I would just recommend you might just to check that film out. I think you would really enjoy it. That's all I wanted to
check it out. And I love, again, it's like, I love these directors. I love Robert Altman, but I don't think I've seen that many Robert Altman movies, but I know exactly what he does. You guys are actually embarrassing me because I'm like a like a faux cinephile if I haven't seen all this stuff.
Honestly, Kurt, there's no one quite like James. As far as movies are concerned, he's seen some really obscure films, and then he's seen one. He'll go on about it for months, and this is one of them. Now, this is one of them. I still haven't seen it yet.
When I come across the treasure, you have to promote it, right? Like the Doom Patrol series. Every day I tweet, watch Doom Patrol. Even though the series, and CopShop too, exactly.
Yeah.
So
CopShop, I put this movie in the same folder with like True Romance and like Boondock Saints. It's like it's like interesting characters and there's gun violence. You know what I mean? It's one thing to just do a shoot 'em up film, but that's good writing. It's the difference. Honestly, it's instead of just a bunch of action, it's good writing. So well done.
Well, thank you. You know what I have realized, and I've heard references, and clearly, like, myself and Joe Carnahan, writer director, and anybody who likes these movies, and even though I haven't seen this, the longest goodbye or the long goodbye, I can just kind of tell just from that little snippet. I really love it when movies create situations where characters can kind of really lean into each other and have these like almost showdown verbal conflicts.
Yeah.
And of course you can go overboard. Like, you don't want just everybody, verbally sparring the whole movie. But if you, that certainly, that's my favorite thing to write. And it's helpful too, like a movie like CopShop where you've got people in cages. It's really helpful when you can lock somebody into a spot. And that could be, because I'd heard people talk about Tarantino a lot. And I love Tarantino, and I've really especially loved his early stuff. And one thing that he does, that he indulges, that I love as a writer, is he creates scenarios where somebody, even if the person's not tied down, they can't go anywhere. Now this person's going to sit in front of you, and they're going to talk at you for a while. And there's like a burning fuse. Like, this is a really tense situation, but now we're going to talk for a couple minutes. And there's just something about that. The Batman Joker scene, we're talking about Chris Nolan. Like, anytime you can get two characters facing off and they have to have a conversation, that's just the funnest thing as a writer. And it has to be believable. Like, it has to be believable that they have to be sitting here facing each other, having a conversation. And I'm sure, as a writer, because I love that so much, I'm sure I'm always trying to like fudge my stories to create those situations. And as I'm talking about it, like this thing I'm writing now, that I'm finishing now, it's got quite a few of those. And I may even have to go through and make sure, like, did I actually earn these verbal showdowns? I think I did, but certainly if you can earn it, for a writer, that's the funnest part. And even when I'm watching films, I love those. And there's going to be some kind of shootout or somebody's going to get killed. Like, and you can surprise people once in a while, but usually you got to deliver the goods after one of those. So
it's just the way to get there, right? It's the journey on the way to that explosion.
What's interesting. Also, I don't mean to jump in front of you guys too, but just before is we're hearing a lot about the Tarantino mention. I feel like maybe some of that has to do with the 70s style choices of the filmmaker. And you said you didn't have that in mind. You didn't know it was going to be like that. So is there a different style that when you envision this, you're like, is there a different director kind of like, okay, what if so-and-so made this movie and that's how you envisioned it, but it ended up being, because it's interesting to think you could have two completely different films that have the same script based on a director. You know what I mean?
Well, completely different in visual aesthetic, you could, because there is a stark there's a version of CopShop that looks like No Country for Old Men. Now, No Country for Old Men is actually funny too. Like, there's some incredibly awesome humorous scenes, like the famous one with him flipping coins with the guy at the gas station. Very droll scenes, but it's a more serious, thriller. It's definitely a more serious film in that kind of hitman, people hunting each other vein. But so it could have that kind of stark palette. But when I, in all honesty, like when I learned that Joe Carnahan was directing the film, I just thought like, oh, that's perfect, and because he has that kind of that machismo, like he really knows how to have two dudes duke it out, and there's kind of a sort of a macho-ness to some of his stuff, but then he also has this kind of like sense of humor, like step back and kind of self-commentary kind of thing. So I just thought it was a really cool fit, and and he doesn't do that kind of 70s vibe aesthetic in all of his films. He actually is. Yeah, he's got kind of a scope. He clearly likes that era, and can do it well. But he's got a bit of a scope. So I actually thought I actually didn't know what the film was going to look like exactly. I thought, well, it could look stark because the gray is very stark. Narc is very stark, the palette, and the aesthetic. And then you look at the other end of the spectrum, Smoking Aces, A-Team, when you very very colorful, very comic booky kind of look. So he actually has quite a bit of a range there. So I didn't know which way it was going to go, because that one could have gone either. But I think what he chose to do and what everybody involved chose to do. Obviously, it's a huge production team, everybody working on that stuff. I thought it was cool. If it had been if the tone had been different, so if the humor was all gone, if they had, I feel like Charlie Kaufman, I don't want to make it a Hollywood thing, but it's quite clearly a genre film and everything. But there's things they could have done where I would have just thought, oh, that doesn't look anything like my kid. But the stuff they did, it was like, oh, this is exactly like my kid. Looks like my kid, talks like my kid, exactly how I remember my kid. The hair color is different, clothes are different. There's some new sayings they picked up, but it certainly felt, it didn't surprise me in that way at all, even though it wasn't how I pictured the look and everything. Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Kurt. Really appreciate it.
It was great to be here, guys.
No,
I look forward to discovering your show here and to watching you talk about movies more.
Oh yeah, and every Friday, and you can catch us on the replay. And
can I when I tune back in as an audience member, I guess I just submit my questions. Give you
you just give us a hard time in the comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give us a hard time in the comments.
It was great chatting with you.
No, it was great
chatting with you. You're welcome back anytime. And when you're in the comments, you can always just request the memes, and you're good. So.
Perfect. All right. You guys have a good weekend. Take care.
Thank you.
Too. Thank you so much, Kurt.
Well, that blew.
Awesome movie.
That was fantastic.
Person.
Kurt
That
was
was
great.
A brilliant talk with Kurt.
I bet it wouldn't be hard to twist your arm to get him back on the show if he's ever listening in the comments and has something to say.
Honestly, it's been a really good year. What are you laughing about, you two?
Just because we're all just decompressing all that knowledge.
The
story.
I was going to say, it's been a really good couple of years for Joe Carnahan. If you're a big fan of his, he did Boss Level just before, which I actually.
What do you think of that?
I really like Boss Level. I think it's a really fun movie. It's another film with Frank Grillo and Mel Gibson's in that one too. But it's a really, really good fun film. It's very different to CopShop though. CopShop's a bit more, what's the word? A bit
grounded.
harder. Yeah, a bit grounded and a bit harder. But probably all of that was down to Kurt. Yeah, it's a really good film. If you haven't watched it, guys, you should definitely go and check it out. It depends what territory you're in, I think, but over here in France, it's available on Amazon Prime.
Yes.
I'm not sure if it is in Canada or in the US. I don't know.
Yep, it's on Amazon Prime. Yeah.
Go and watch it. It's great.
We need more movies like that. More original IPs with more unique voices.
Yes. And let's hope he gets to make CopShop 2, or I think he should call it CopShop Part 2. And just go balls off the wall.
It should be called CopShops.
CopShops.
And it's about two cop stations in one city, and they have to go back and forth, right? And there's probably an underground tunnel too.
Oh yeah, I was going to say an underground tunnel. I was going to say that. Yeah.
Actually, one cop shop is in Texas, the other one's in Mexico.
Yes.
And it's all about that tunnel underneath the border.
El Chapo's on a motorcycle, and he's going back and forth underneath.
It's Danny Trejo.
Yeah. Oh God. Oh dear.
Dude, I would pay for that movie.
Directed by Robert Rodriguez.
Oh yes, there you go. That's the film. That's the movie we all want.
Before Once Upon a Time in Mexico. We're talking Desperado days. Yeah.
I'm just gonna have to open the window because it's super hot in here.
Okay. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later. You check to see if I ended it.
That was great.
Did you leave?
I pretended to end it.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
I always love hearing the behind the scenes on how movies are made and how the concepts are. You know, it's fascinating. And I always say it all the time. I would almost rather watch the behind the scenes than the actual show or movie. It's really fun talking to people.
I'd rather watch the behind the scenes on Home Sweet Home Alone than the actual movie.
I guarantee.
It's every time I watch a movie, usually I'll go to IMDb trivia and then I'll check the wiki and stuff because I want to know how it was made and how it was executed and
Sorry.
Yeah, I am film geek.
Yeah.
Wait, you don't do that, but you're the one who wants to be a writer. You're the one who writes short scripts, but you don't check out
honestly
IMDb trivia after you watch a movie.
I have a great time on IMDb trivia, and I also I tend to check out this is
nice
the problem.
save.
No, this is the problem though with living in the world that we live in with everything on streaming. If you don't buy a DVD anymore or a Blu-ray, you don't really get those extras, you know, and it's a bit of a shame.
On Disney Plus, and it's actually Spooky showed me on Netflix too. There's the features too, and more options or something.
Is there? Because I realized that they do give that stuff to you on Apple TV when you buy a movie. Like I bought Free Guy, and I watched that. I watched that on Apple. By the way, Free Guys. I'm sorry, but I'm so bored of. If we talk about bad movies, Red Notice is terrible.
Haven't watched it yet. That tells you something. I'm not interested. I'm
so bored of Ryan Reynolds now. It's like every movie he's in, he just plays Ryan Reynolds, and The Rock just plays The Rock, and Gal Gadot.
Did you like Free Guy?
I thought Free Guy was better,
yeah.
But I thought it was fine. It was fine. But I literally felt like Red Notice was a complete waste of my time. Like I've watched 2 movies this week that I thought were complete wastes of my time, and that was Home Sweet Home Alone and Red Notice. They're both awful. They're probably both bad as each other, but there's something slightly more sinister, I think, about Home Sweet Home Alone. Yeah, Red Notice is horrible. It really is horrible. It's such a boring movie. It's just really boring. It's just Ryan Reynolds riffing. Like for an hour and 50 minutes, and I'm just like, what is the point? Yeah, it's terrible.
Boring.
Literally boring. And then at the end, like Dwayne The Rock Johnson loves to post, and they all love to post like the most successful Netflix film of all time, the biggest Netflix film ever made. It's like, yeah, but it's still shit. It's like,
oh my god, man. Did Ray Winstone appear with an accent or something to really?
But they did riff on Indiana Jones, and that made me think of Ray Winstone. So maybe that was the problem.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, is it as bad as Inhumans?
Inhumans is good. Inhumans in Humans is genuinely good. I actually think that film is a really, really good film. I was
not Eternals, Inhumans, the show.
Oh, I thought you meant the TV show. Oh, the TV show Inhumans. I watched the first 2 episodes because they were the ones that were released in IMAX, and I was invited to the screening, and I came out afterwards thinking my brain is now mush, and I don't want to watch anything Marvel ever does ever again. But that was that. It was really bad. It's like when you say Inhumans is worse than like the worst of the CW DC Comics TV shows. That really means something.
Yeah,
right,
dude. Netflix, and I heard they switched up their format lately, but they've had the 2-minute counts as a view thing going on. Yeah. So it doesn't surprise me at all. Like just overpay some big stars. So you have them in the thumbnail. People are going to watch. They get their view, and then it doesn't matter if the thing is a steaming pile of garbage or not. That's
why you got to go to Samba TV.
Right.
Yeah.
The first 5 minutes.
The thing I'll say right about Red Notice is, I don't think The Rock is a good actor. I think The Rock is literally just The Rock, and he's in action movies. He's never done really anything apart from.
He was good in Southland Tales.
I haven't seen that.
Did you see? He was good in that.
I've seen him in one good movie where he was it one of the Get films, Get Something it was called. I can't remember what it was called. He was good in that, but he played a bit of a different character. But come on, in the last like 10 years, he's literally played the same character in all his movies. And they've been the same movies. So that you've got him doing exactly the same thing that he's done in every film, which I'm so bored of. You've got Gal Gadot, literally Gal Gadot. No, you're not.
Go ahead, Clint. You're gonna explode.
What the hell do you want? He's Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's Sylvester Stallone.
No. Arnold Schwarzenegger was in good movies, but he was actually in good movies.
I'm like getting the feeling of coming in the gym. I'm getting the.
It's
called Get Shorty. Get Shorty was the film that he was in that he was good in.
This guy's the modern day version of those guys.
He's not. He's not because the films he's in. No, he is. The films he is in are crap. The films that Arnold Schwarzenegger were in are good. Like literally, you've not seen The Rock do as good a film as Predator or as Commando or like literally as The Terminator or Terminator 2. He doesn't have any of those films in his locker. He doesn't have anything close to that.
He's not making.
You're going to tell me that fucking Skyscraper is as good as any of those movies? No, it's awful. His films are terrible. I'm sorry, they're all terrible.
Well, those are summer blockbuster popcorn movies he's doing.
Yeah,
he hasn't hit that stage in his career where.
So was Arnold Schwarzenegger though, and he was picking movies that were written by much better writers and directed by much better directors. So maybe that's what he's got to do. But The Rock cares more about how much money he's going to get from promoting a movie on Instagram, and actually producing it with his own production company. I mean, yeah, he is the modern day Arnold Schwarzenegger. He is. I'll give you that. He is the modern day Arnold Schwarzenegger. But he hasn't got a single good movie in his arsenal. He doesn't.
Twins is great.
Twins is great. But we could see a remake with Paul Rudd and him as twin and The Rock as twins. It's coming soon.
I'm pretty sure they're working on it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying it's not The Rock's fault. That's just the garbage they're making these days.
So does that make Dave Bautista Stallone?
Yeah, yes. Dave Bautista has proven himself to be a very good actor, and he's very clever about the movies he chooses to do. And that's why when Dave Bautista says, I'm in a different league to The Rock and the other one, John Cena, I completely agree with him because he is. He's in a completely different league to those guys because the guy can actually act. Like he is a very good actor and he's very good at choosing the movies he does. The Rock and John Cena's being a bit different. Actually, he's being a bit interesting. I think Suicide Squad's far better than the Suicide Squad.
Cena's trying the Rock route though.
He's going down there, but I think he's got. There's just something about the Rock that I find really disingenuous about
the Brian Bosworth.
I mean, I know I'm getting heated about it, but it's just because I feel that I just don't like any of his films. I like apart from the first Jumanji movie, which was all right. The second one was awful, like really bad. Like, are you going to say that his movies are going to stand the test of time the way Arnold Schwarzenegger's films have done?
Not like Junior or Jingle All the Way. Not like those films.
Yeah, well, you say that, but people will still watch Jingle All the Way at Christmas. Like, literally, trust me, people will still watch that movie. Like, but you look at the movies that Arnold Schwarzenegger's done in his career. Literally, some of them are the best action movies ever made. Like Terminator 2 is one of the best action movies ever made. Predator the same. Commando the same. Like, they're always there was a period.
Commando is a joke, man. Commando's hilarious. Like Commando, but it's not a masterpiece. I mean, he's got a bazooka.
It's not on the same level
huge bazooka on this island, and he destroys a building with it, right? And it explodes from the inside.
Yeah, but we've never seen Dwayne The Rock Johnson do anything like that. Like literally, if he doesn't, Hobbs and Shaw might be his best film. As far as these action movies are concerned, Hobbs and Shaw might be his best movie.
The first 10 minutes of Commando, I love Schwarzenegger, man. I love Arnie, and Commando is one of my favorites. But you gotta admit, it's corny as hell. Like first 10 minutes is like, we really need to sell you on the love with his daughter because she's gone in 4 minutes and gets kidnapped. You know what I mean? And he's gonna get in this truck and go down this mountain, and he wouldn't survive if he's a normal human being. But it's Arnold Schwarzenegger, right?
Do you think this might be a larger issue with action movies today? Like in the 80s and 70s, we were talking a lot with Kurt about, how the CopShop had a lot of 70s vibe about it, and that CopShop's probably one of, like, there are two good action movies that have come out this year, and that's Nobody and CopShop. They're two like really good action movies that came out this year, and they both kind of harken back to that kind of 70s aesthetic kind of thing. And I feel like that these movies that The Rock are making are just complete and utter like popcorn crap that is made to make as much money as you can possibly make, or is made as Red Notice was. Literally, they were like, this movie will have that tagline, the biggest movie Netflix has ever made, and that's literally why they did it.
Those are executive films. They're made by executives.
Yeah, those the 90s like turned into all of that. Every single thing.
Yeah.
How many natural disasters? Twister, Armageddon,
Twister
Deep
is
Impact,
so good.
Like how many natural disasters are you? What do you got? What we got? We're out of a. Let's do a movie called Acid Rain. Okay, can we get The Rock? Back. Well, can we get Jamie? Who do we get? Sean Connery will do it. Okay, Acid. We've got to get under some shade. Acid Rain.
Give me the big metal umbrella for the acid rain that's coming down on me.
Yeah, tsunami movies, like every single thing, it's the same thing. Like every single thing that an asteroid coming for you'd have two of them out at the same competing at the same time. They're just out of movies. They're just out of concepts. Like,
you know what I watched a couple weeks ago that was cheesier than I remember, talking about like 80s action stars. Cobra with Stallone.
Oh yeah.
Man, the one-liners in that, and it was absolutely cheese, But back then it was like, wow.
Stallone did some brilliant ones. What was the one where he was frozen as a and then was brought back? Like,
Demolition Man.
Demolition Man. So much fun. That movie is so much fun. The other one where he's
Snipes.
Stuck, with Wesley Snipes. The other one where he's stuck in a tunnel that's like
Daylight.
Up. Is that called Daylight? I forget the name since I remember watching them as a kid and loving them. But there's nothing like that anymore, really. Like those, I know you say they're running out of ideas, but literally the ideas they come up with now are literally the same shit. Like,
because they keep trying to chase that $1 billion box office.
Yeah,
they see that like Avengers did, and they're like, okay, well, if we can get The Rock, and then if we can get blah blah blah, and then now we have to put in all the special. Let's skyscraper, okay, and then he's got to jump from one skyscraper. It's got to be up to 11, where Die Hard was 6. You know what I mean? So it's just. Right, no, exactly.
Andreas. Oh my god, that film was so bad. But there was watching Red Notice. I was like, this whole film has been filmed on a green screen. Like, there are probably some bits of it that were actually in Rome at the very beginning. Like, this is another thing about these movies. It reminded me a lot of Six Underground, which is awful. That film is just vomit bad, like really, really bad.
That's
like
the one with the bad editing and Ryan Reynolds, Michael Bay.
The bad editing, Ryan Reynolds, Michael Bay, shit movie. Anyone that says that movie's good is a fucking idiot. I'm sorry.
I turned it off after 15 minutes. Like, I just couldn't. It was so too distracting.
There's a whole scene. The whole beginning scene is that scene with the car. It's so poorly edited, and they make such a big deal about the wing mirror being ripped off at one point, and then the next scene it's back again. I'm like, what is who? Like a monkey edited this. Like, seriously, it was awful. And then this is these the two stars in particular, Ryan Reynolds and Dwayne The Rock Johnson, are the ones that I have issue with, because they just do this over and over and over again. And now Gal Gadot's doing exactly the same thing. And Gal Gadot, I think she looks great on screen. She's very good as Wonder Woman, but I think she's very limited as an actor. Like, I think she's very limited. And I cannot imagine Gal Gadot doing a film like Buried, where Ryan Reynolds is brilliant in Buried. Like, that's a really good movie. That's literally Ryan Reynolds in a box. And it's probably the one film he's done where he hasn't really annoyed me. Like, but every other film he's in now, he just kind of annoys me, because Deadpool not so much because it's the character, but he literally just plays Ryan Reynolds in every movie that he's in. And I think that. Is he about to like own Canada or something as well with all his? He seems to own your mobile network in Canada.
Some mobile network, I don't know. I've never used it.
Things will never be the same, because the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
Yes,
do you think he'll actually play
it's about to get really shit.
You think so?
Yes, I think Black Adam is going to be terrible. I can tell you.
You think so?
Yes.
Just to put some hope on the horizon for you, there's a story out that came out yesterday on several sources that said Hiram Garcia, the producer,
the producer that won't shut up.
He's saying we actually have some ideas and there's something that we're working on to continue the story. So maybe you will get to see a continuation of San Andreas.
Oh, San Andreas.
Yeah, San Andreas.
Oh man, I thought you were talking about Black Adam. You won't stop going on
San
about
Andreas.
Black Adam. Yeah.
I don't think I've seen San Andreas, but what's the one where he like befriends like King Kong?
Oh, that's Rampage.
Rampage, yeah, off the video game. That was actually a fun movie, though. It was fun. Like these, you can't compare them to like highbrow cinema, you know, or like.
I'm not even comparing them to that. I'm comparing them to action movies that were made in the 80s.
Oh, for sure, but like, okay, Schwarzenegger,
which I think
Eraser.
is fair. Yeah,
you seen Eraser?
No, I haven't seen Eraser.
Where he shoots a CG alligator from like friggin' 2001 or something, or 1999, and he goes, "Your luggage," you know, and it was just, that was, I think Vanessa Williams was in it. I can't remember, but it was just bad.
They're awesome. They're a childhood.
I mean, Skyscraper, I had fun watching, and there's a lot of unbelievable moments. And at the end, I'm like, oh wow, they're doing the mirror room again from like Enter the Dragon. How many times that's been used? You know, at least in John Wick 3, it was a good callback but
oh, man,
I don't know. They're popcorn movies. You can't like rag on him for being A, wanting to make a lot of money, B, having fun making these films and having control over with this production company. And then he'll settle down. He's a very motivated person. He'll settle down. He'll realize that the human growth hormone is not good for his body, and then he'll get into like some method acting and stuff. Yeah.
Or he'll just end up owning the production company that creates all these movies with future things, and he'll end up.
Yeah, he's gonna own Warner Brothers and restore the Snyderverse. That's what's gonna happen. Yeah, Danzig, that was CGI, that alligator. Yeah, it was really bad.
And the sax god is saying I'm becoming a film snob, so maybe I should stop with my rants. But
it's okay to have an opinion.
These two movies that I watched this week broke me. Like,
just
really,
don't tell people that they're effing
me.
dumb if they like a movie, because that makes you a film snob.
Yeah, well, come on. I mean, 6 Underground.
Even though you're right, I agree with you.
Like,
saying you're wrong.
That there's something about that movie that just makes my blood boil. That 6 Underground film is just oh god, yeah.
I want Michael Bay back for like The Rock and Armageddon. You know what I mean? Not like this CG fest that he does.
It's weird with Michael Bay because he started off with I genuinely love The Rock and I love Armageddon. I do think they've aged quite badly, actually. The Rock I watched recently, and I think that film, it's still got that charm about it, but Michael Bay's just turned into someone that all he cares about are arses and stupid like firework explosions
and then CG.
Yeah, and it's you can't
so
understand.
he's like the action film director George Lucas. You think? No?
Yeah, to a certain degree. I think he started off. I think maybe he just got too much money. I think like the studios gave him too much money, and he kind of could do whatever he wanted. And when you get certain directors to do whatever they want, I mean, even Christopher Nolan, I have problems with Tenet. Like I think, and also have problems with Interstellar. I think those two movies are problematic as films are concerned. Like I don't think you can follow them. You can't follow them and you can't hear. You said that earlier. You can't hear them very well, and it's a problem. It's a problem when you give certain directors too much creative freedom, because they'll tend to come up with stuff that you know doesn't always work. But also, it's not to say that you shouldn't let them. So it's on
the flip side of that, though, like you get to when there is a fiscal responsibility to succeed. And you get in trouble when you don't, you know, or get, you know, like, or your opportunities shrink up if you don't perform. And I feel like, and I can kind of relate this in a weird creating and having people overlooking what you're doing and and looking at your successes. It's the same with music. Like you write a hit song, you have to write a second hit song. You have a tendency to want to repeat the things that worked in the past, and that's part of learning. And that's how we get better. But you can also put walls and blinders on, a creative box around yourself to where all of a sudden you're doing the same crap all the time. And if that means a bunch of explosions and bad CG, you're like, well, it worked over here. We got like $1 billion movie. That's where all of a sudden the innocence of becoming successful on accident the first time gets taken away, and you turn into like you just end up with a formula, and that's where movies start to get crappy, you know.
And if it's not the director, it's the executives, right? Like in the 50s and 60s, it was all studio films, so producers, they were bigger than directors back then. Then the 70s hit, and then it became a director driven decade, and it was all about the director and their vision, and the studios would be hands off, you know. And you had Scorsese and you had Michael Cimino and all that, and then Heaven's Gate happened and bankrupted United Artists, so like, okay, we're not doing that anymore. And then the 80s hit, and there's more studio driven tentpole films that we got, like the action ones, and we saw like Close Encounters and stuff like that. But now like 30 years later, after the director decade, now we have everything's run by studios and executives and market projections. And that's why everything's built on franchises and sequels and past properties, because no one wants to take that financial risk, especially with the COVID and everything now. And I think that's kind of goes into what The Rock is doing, is with the tentpole films and making the studios happy, so he can get his leverage in Hollywood, and then maybe he's got a plan to do something afterwards, you know.
That's what's funny about like fans of cinema and fans of comic books, fans of just viewers, you know what I mean? They're like, man, this director did this did this. They don't realize there's like, it's not just telling a story. You have people, there's expectations all from the fans, there's expectations from the companies. Like it's tough. And you know,
like sometimes a producer wants to put a giant spider in your Superman movie, right? And you got to do that. It's whoever you're beholden to when you're making a film on the studios. So,
good example of that is Spider-Man 3 for Sam Raimi. Like Sam Raimi, one of the best directors to have ever lived. I think, honestly, I really do think that with Sam Raimi, and the studio really messed up that movie for him, which is a shame.
Yeah, he wanted the Sandman story.
He wanted Sandman. He didn't want Venom.
The studio wanted the love story too. Yeah, and he didn't want that. Yeah.
It's a shame. People are talking about Wanted in the comments. I love Wanted. I don't know why that came up. I don't know why that came up in the comments. That's a really good film. Yeah, I don't know I can't remember who directed Wanted actually. Is that
Spooky said, "Tell me how you feel about the movie Wanted."
Is that what?
I don't think I've ever seen.
I like Wanted a lot, actually. I like that film a lot.
I don't think I've ever seen the whole film. So. Who directed Clint? Sorry,
Timur Bekmambetov.
Oh, yeah, he directed Run Lola Run, didn't he?
No, the films that he directed that were really famous were Night Watch and Day Watch. I think he's Russian. Is he Russian?
Yeah.
And he's from Kazakhstan actually, and he directed. They were the two films that he directed that were very famous and got not very famous, but they got a lot of traction. And he's been producing Wanted 2 now for years.
Well, after Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, it kind of went down again. Like you were saying, Clint, you're only as good as your last work, right?
Yeah,
the last thing you make. So, have you guys seen Run Lola Run?
No, I haven't seen Run Lola.
I think that was actually Tom Tykwer who directed. He was second assistant director on The Matrix. And he did. Let me see. He did Run Lola Run, and then he did like The Princess and something, and that was another really good film. This is like going back to my film school days.
I was getting Wanted mixed up with Salt, which is one of my favorites. I love that movie.
I'd never see Wanted and Salt just looked too. I think it was too superficial, too shiny for me. I don't know.
If you like movies like The Bourne Identity, stuff like that, watch Salt. You'll absolutely.
I kind of liked Bourne Identity. I like Nikita, like Luc Besson's Nikita.
Nikita's so good. Yeah, it's a shame what happened to Luc Besson.
Yeah.
He
Either
made some
long
really
enough,
good
you
movies.
live long enough to be a villain
you
or
either die,
something.
you either die a hero or live long enough to become the villain. But I think with Luc Besson, there's a bit of like, I think there's some rather nasty allegations made against him as well, which is a bit.
Which really makes you think about The Professional.
Yeah. Well, I know it as Leon, but yeah, like that film was one of my favorite. Like The Fifth Element, Nikita. I even liked Lucy, and
Lucy was good.
Yeah,
I want to see a Professional sequel. Natalie Portman grown up.
I don't think Natalie Portman will do it. I don't think she'll do it. But yeah,
the thing with Luc Besson though is like he produces a bunch of. He didn't even direct Lockdown or Lockout with Guy Pearce.
No. But he produced all those films. Like he produced
a lot of films
and Taken movies, and he had a company that is now bust that did all the French Paris-based company, which is why all those movies tend to be based or shot in Paris.
Like Wasabi, you ever see Wasabi?
Yeah.
It said Luc Besson presents, and I was in film school. I'm like, I knew. And then Jean Reno was in it, and but I watched it. I was like, oh, it's not that good.
No, it's not that good.
No. But you can watch The Protege with Maggie Q. That's kind of that's almost, and pretend it's the sequel to The Professional. If you wanted to, it's pretty much the same story.
Oh, so the Sax God said Portman said she would do a sequel. Yeah, maybe I just think there were some allegations made against Luc Besson that made me think that Natalie Portman might not want to do it with him. I don't know. I mean, Go on.
I don't remember. Well, no, I don't remember reading anything that she had a problem with him.
He was accused of rape recently.
Yeah.
And it's been quite a big story in France. So I'm pretty sure that would make her not want to do it with him, because she's quite vocal on
disgusting.
It's a shame, because Luc Besson was really one of my heroes growing up. Like The Fifth Element was one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, talk of great like sci-fi movies. That was so weird. I remember watching that movie and thinking, God, this is so strange. And absolutely loving it. And then Leon, The Professional, came out. So just love that movie as well. It's a shame.
Like it's hard to watch LA Confidential now. Like LA Confidential is one of my favorite films, but I'm not able to.
Why not? What happened with
Kevin Spacey is in it?
Oh God. Well, but the problem is that Kevin Spacey's in so many good movies.
I know. It's like Baby Driver. I want to watch that movie again, but can they like CGI? What's his name?
Well, Ridley Scott did that, didn't he?
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. So why not do it for Baby Driver?
Yeah,
so I can watch it again.
That is a shame, because not only Baby Driver has two people in it that are quite problematic, as Ansel Elgort also came under some pretty heavy scrutiny as well. Happens a lot, but thankfully people are speaking out against it. Yeah. What happened to Matilda's houseplant? The Professional. That's very good. Very, very good.
That needs to be a short cartoon.
Yeah. Oh dear. But yeah, it happens a lot, and I think do we have anything else to talk about? I think I've ranted enough for one live stream.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately.
I can tell you, I saw the first. I'm not going to spoil anything, James. I saw the first 3 episodes of Circle of Time, and that show was fantastic, dude. Go watch it.
Yeah, apparently it's meant to be really good.
Fantastic.
Really, this is surprising. Yeah,
it's surprising.
I was surprised too, but it was really good, like really good.
I'm going to watch that. The other one is Arcane. Is that the other show you're telling me?
Arcane's fantastic. I've seen the first 6 episodes of that, and I cannot wait till Friday.
Part 2.
That's the finale, right?
It's I guess the next 3 episodes, and I hope they got 6 more episodes. Probably only 3, but I'm really enjoying that. It's really well done.
Is that the first time a video game company has produced an animated feature like that, like an animated series.
Castlevania?
No, that wasn't, because Riot Games made Arcane, and I remember thinking, I just was watching, thinking, God, that's weird. Like, but it's really, the animation is so good, like so good. It's just really the story's really cool as well. And I'm not into League of Legends at all. Like, I've never played that game, but I still love this show. I think it's really good.
I just saw the little trailer and I was like, this looks interesting. I'm going to check it out. And I was blown away. I don't know anything about the game, but the game
is good. The game is what's it called? Is it an MMO? A massive massive online. I don't know. So there's not much massive multiplayer online game or something, I think it's called. But but there's no story to the game. I don't think anyway. There might be lore around it.
I think they did fill out the backstory of LoL, but I don't know. I've never played it, but once I think it's in my list. Once Clint told me about it, it's like, okay, I'll check it out. I know I'm following them on Twitter, so
they built a really cool world. Like, they've built a cool world, and like, it's just cool. It's neat, and there's twists, and there's things that you don't expect, and drama, and I'm not. It's because my dad didn't like cartoons. My dad's like, cartoon. I'm not gonna watch cartoons. So I'm like, I have you have to twist my arm a lot of times to see, and I'm finding now I'm enjoying, because there's a lot more adult.
So many, especially on Netflix. So many good ones. So many good, like the Castlevania ones. They are so good. If you like, animated shows, Castlevania is a great one. And then there's a lot of anime on Netflix that's really good. So yeah, if you like that sort of stuff, definitely check out. Like Love, Death and Robots is really good as well on Netflix, and that's a bit weird, but it's really, really good.
But fun.
It's fun. It's really fun.
I think one of the best animated shows is of all time.
Full Metal Alchemist.
Tiny Toons.
Yeah, that's pretty good, but.
Death Note. What? Are we gonna get?
Get up, Freddy! You're sitting at my desk.
Get up.
What's this?
That's Cromartie High School. It's on Funimation. It's absolutely bonkers. It's about being the biggest badass in high school. And there's a guy that looks exactly like Freddie Mercury, and they call him Freddie. And there's a gorilla. And there's a robot student, and a lot of it doesn't make sense, and it does make sense. If I don't know what to watch, or I'm not sure what I want to watch, but I want a good laugh, I'll just put that on. They're really short episodes. Yeah, I'll probably do a video on that series, because I just stumbled upon it. I'm like, what the hell is this bonkers crap? And I absolutely love it.
Awesome, that sounds great.
So, the animation is very stilted, but it goes well with what's going on with it, and which is saying something, because I don't like that kind of animation style. But for me to keep going back to it every now and then, and just throwing on a couple episodes and just laughing at how crazy it is, man, it's just nuts. It's one of the, and I've watched FLCL, and that's a crazy anime. So yeah, and Cowboy Bebop. Anyone watch the live action yet?
Not yet. No.
I saw a little clip of it, but I was like, I got other stuff to do.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm gonna watch it anytime soon, but
it hasn't had like the best reviews ever.
That's what I heard too.
Yeah. So I mean, but I want to watch it, because I really like John Cho, and I think it looks really cool. Like the way it looks is pretty cool, but I don't know. I've heard that it's just like it's literally the live action remake of the anime, like almost kind of like shot for shot, which I think is a bit weird, but it might work. Who knows? I haven't watched it yet, so I can't really say anything about it. But yeah, there are lots of good ones. I think we've gone through quite a few good anime and animated shows on Netflix. Netflix especially has a lot of them. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why. Should we
turn me on to Way of the House Husband, which is pretty funny. Yeah, it's this old Yakuza boss, and he decides to retire. He wants to be a house husband. He gets married. So it's like how he interacts in the situations with like the market and the neighbor and stuff like that. But because he's a Yakuza boss, he's so cool and he's got that killer instinct. It's pretty funny. Attack on Titan.
Yeah, Attack on Titan.
Cannot wait until January for the last part of the final season. I'm like super pumped for that. So yeah, I'm done interrupting our exit strategies.
Yeah, I think we should. We've been streaming now for how long?
2 hours 31
2 hours
minutes.
31 minutes 24
and
seconds.
I need to let you guys get on with your lives.
No.
Well, speaking of my lives, I'm gonna have a live stream in about an hour. So
awesome.
If you end up not going to sleep, Edward, feel free to watch. We're gonna be talking about a whole bunch of Ghostbusters. We're gonna talk about all of the Ghostbusters.
I'm gonna have to go to bed because I got to pack, and packing up sucks. Got all this stuff to pack away.
I'm gonna miss that background.
Yeah, it's gonna be something different. It'll be.
We can get a green screen and then we can send you the photo of it. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that.
I'll have another background that will be just as good. I swear. Well, maybe not as deep. Like this one's quite but the room's slightly smaller. Oh well.
Thanks, James.
Yeah, everyone go check out. You're doing versus tonight, you said?
Yeah, we're doing versus. Me and CB3, who's in the chat, are going to be talking about all the Ghostbusters stuff.
That guy,
yeah. You're going to catch us probably doing a little argument about Shang-Chi and the Eternals because I talked some smack during the.
He doesn't know anything.
CB3 doesn't like anything. That's the problem.
No.
Yeah, Clint likes. That's the perfect dynamic. Clint likes everything. CB3 hates everything. It's a good dynamic. But man, I really had fun with talking to Kurt today. Kurt was awesome.
That was a good interview. Edward is moving to Canada. We got him a place. They're moving in next door.
Yeah.
What's unfortunate for Edward is that James is moving to Austin, so he's like, he's gonna be all by himself in Canada. Hello.
Oh dear. Yeah, I'm not sure about this move. I'm going to be honest. All the way to Canada. Oh man.
Oh, you'll like the -40 weather with the 8 feet of snow.
Yeah. Oh dear. Right, bedtime for me.
Okay. Clint,
Bonzos.
you know where everyone can reach you?
Where can you reach me? If you want to hit me up on social media, look for @the OG Clint Baker. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter, or find me on Facebook. And I love that Riker pick. And again, you can find me at youtube.com/Clint Baker channel. And we'll be on in an hour. So yes.
Small screen code. EJ Lauder. Oh god. Yeah. Fine.
Wow.
I really don't get this. Why do you like bringing that up?
Because
Bum's in the background, and he's for the third time. He worked on the boys set.
Yeah, I know, but he's not actually in the background on that photo. You've just photoshopped him in there, haven't you?
That's crazy talk.
Clint
He was
did,
he was there.
That's what's funny about it.
That's the joke.
Actually, yeah, you weren't here for that stream, though. That's why.
No, it wasn't. No.
You don't get it.
No.
Where can we find you, James?
He does. You don't find James. He finds you.
Small screen. Actually, that's very true. But small screen co 42cut.com and Geekossi Mag.
James has a particular set of skills that make him a nightmare for people like you.
James,
thank you for listening, Danzig. Oh wait, before we go, let me upload that clip then.
I will
James
find
doesn't
you.
sleep.
Sorry.
He waits.
And he will find you, and he will kill you in this life or the next.
So, that went into something else. It's a bit of Gladiator. My name is Maximus Decimus, whatever the fuckest his name is. Father to
keep killing time.
James's Maximus.
James's Dickus Maximus. Father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and he will have this vengeance in this life or the next.
That's a good movie. Talking of movies with no script.
And you can find Spooky Bats on TikTok and Twitter.
You have to say it properly.
And Instagram.
It's actually Spoo0 Bat. I can't say this. Spoo0 Uki B4TS. That's the actual way to say it.
Edward, keep doing a Liam Neeson's fake American accent.
But that's actually his fake.
He just sounds. He goes very low, and he kind of just sounds Irish anyway. So he's from Northern Ireland, so he has that anyway. And his American accent is just even lower than normal.
He's terrible at an American accent, like really bad. No, he
take
is.
that back.
Oh, dear.
Spooky's trying not to be loud while laughing right now.
Liam Neeson stars in his new movie where he finds people and beats them up with a lot of shaky cam because he's getting old.
Liam Neeson and The Rock together.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson is an old man trying not to be old by beating young men up.
I love watching those movies because literally all they do is hide everything with a shaky cam, and it's like nothing makes any sense, and you just hear Liam Neeson go, "Oh, oh, oh,"
and they're running out of like trades for they're like the conductor, the marksman. They're like it's going to be like the electrician.
Liam Neeson is the plumber.
You've got a clog in your pipe. That sounded more like Sean Connery.
Maybe he should have played Mario.
It's me, Mario.
The mechanic is a Jason Statham movie.
They should just make
originally
Liam
a Charlie Bronson movie.
Make Liam Neeson 007. Martini shaken, not stirred.
Well, you are so right. All of his movies are like, like Taken, The Marksman. What was the other one? I need to go through his list. Actually, let's go through.
It's just kind of what they kind of went into. They're like, okay, well, let's make the same movie, but this time he's on a train. They're like, okay, let's make the same movie, except this time he's a an
airplane,
a forest ranger.
Yeah,
let's do
an
a forest
airplane,
ranger. Yeah, let's do an air marshal. Forest ranger in the Grand Canyon. Okay, how about a game warden? Okay, let's do one of those. What else we got? Security guard at a campus at a university. The officer. I don't know.
He's got so like it's just Cold Pursuit. I actually thought was all right. Actually, that film.
They're all good. They're all good, but it's the same movie.
The Commuter was the one I was thinking of. Like, what was that film where he was like,
Liam Neeson is the commuter.
And you could just literally do that.
Liam Neeson is the marksman. Liam Neeson is the ice road.
I'm an air marshal.
Liam Neeson is running all night.
Liam Neeson is the clerk.
This is so bad.
Directed by Kevin Smith.
Liam Neeson is
7-Eleven.
Liam Neeson is not stopping. Liam Neeson is the Grey.
The Grey's really good, though. I will say, like the Grey's really
Liam Neeson is the YouTuber.
Liam Neeson is. Liam
Like,
Neeson
share,
is.
subscribe. We've got a particular set of videos you need to watch. Click the notification bell.
You could literally do a whole thing with
Liam Neeson is unknown. Liam Neeson is the A-Team.
It's another one called The Other Man.
Liam Neeson is the other man.
Okay, Junior, I need you to put your nose in the corner. The child care worker.
Oh my god. And then it all ends with
Liam Neeson is Love Actually.
Oh, that's a good film.
That's a good movie.
Yeah.
He's so good. He's so good. He's so good. James, he's so
Yeah.
good.
So, oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Took me a while to find it, but I finally found it.
Danzig just put Liam Neeson is the bin man. It's like I think a good one would be the rubbish collector. Oh man, I love Liam Neeson. Though he's probably the one like him and Gerard Butler.
He should play Kevin Feige in his autobiography. Classic Liam Neeson is Kevin Feige. Say it.
Liam Neeson is Kevin Feige.
Feige.
He's got that Northern Irish twang, you know. He's Kevin Feige. Yes. I love Liam Neeson.
Oh, that's good.
He's born in Ballymena in Northern Ireland. Liam Neeson.
Peter. Peter, do you have your rent?
I have a
Peter, my rent when you
Peter, do you have your rent?
Door.
Okay, one of you needs to write the landlord script and with Liam Neeson in mind.
We'll get Kurt McLeod to write it.
I wonder if he's still watching. He's like, what show did I join? Oh god.
No, they don't watch it after they leave. You know that. No, that's why we can go crazy.
I think Spooky Bats came with the best one.
Liam Neeson is the mailman.
Went really Northern Irish in there.
The mailman.
Through rain, sleet, or snow.
I'm an exotic dancer.
He'll be like,
one of the three.
One of the lines in the mailman has to be,
"The people need their mail. I will deliver."
It's the sequel to The Postman.
Oh dear.
All right, dudes, I gotta bail.
Yeah. That was a rather long way to end the segment of the show. All right, bye guys. Let's end it now.
Bye, everybody at home. Love you.
Anyway, enough.